Let's do that. Hey, for everybody, this is episode 223. This is the Option Podcast. That guy looks like Chris Chips. We are going to find out. Ladies and gentlemen, the episode starts right now. And everybody in the club getting chipsy. One, here comes the two to the three to the six. For those of you that don't know who this man is, this is entrepreneur, this is businessman, volleyball player, patriot, saint, good husband, just a great all around human being. It is my
Thank you.
honor, duty, and privilege to have you on this show, my man.
Thank you. Right back at you.
Cool, man.
It's
So,
beyond. It's 4 years later. It's crazy. It's been 4 years.
to,
It's been so fast.
can you appreciate why I wanted you on the show? All right, we got the AP News electoral map. I'm just gonna hit refresh,
Okay.
and it's gonna bring us up to speed. So while I'm putting this up to speed, here's my question: does this feel more like 2016 or 2020?
I think it's a hybrid between the two of them, to be honest with you.
Right.
Um, there's been doubt sowed about this election from the beginning. Shoot, since day one, Trump's been saying that everything is rigged and unfair, and unless he wins, it's rigged.
That includes the one he won.
Includes the one he won. And, well, he shut up about that, actually. Remember that? He was like, oh, it's rigged. And he's like, zoop,
Well,
and just
actually,
rigged
his
the thing.
quote, sorry, his quote was, they said, "Will you contest the election after the election?" He says, "Only if." He says, "If I lose, yes." He said, "Only if I don't win." So,
That's the craziest thing, because it's like going to a volleyball tournament and being like, yo, I didn't, if I don't win this, it's fucking rigged, right?
it's the refs.
Like every sport, everything in the world, it's rigged if I don't win. So
Yeah,
it's
that's
just
right.
crazy. She started like that, and I think it's just been an ongoing hybrid of that sentiment from their side from the beginning, along with a lot of uh, rhetoric that they've been pushing through, and so I think that's why it seems very similar to the last elections. This obviously is going to come down to 6 to 8 battleground states with little bubbles of people that we haven't seen the vote come through yet.
Yeah.
It's the same
Well, we're
thing of,
gonna
yeah,
periodically. I'm just gonna do something like this,
it's like
right?
114 to 112 right now or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
it was. It looked
145 to 211. I don't know.
214. Yeah. Let's see if I can zoom that in. There's
179. There you go.
179, right? And
Yeah,
scrolling. There's
to
214.
212. I think what happened last time too is that t Trump was thumping away like he's doing right now
Hmm.
until about right now, until about I think he stopped at about 220.
Hmm.
If I can remember, I'm almost positive that's where he stopped. It's 223 or something like that. I think he
Yeah.
stopped that last time.
Yep.
So
And I mean like a dead halt, right?
dead halt. And
Yeah.
that's why I feel like it's the same shit that's going on, because as you're looking at the numbers and coming in, you still have a lot of these areas that we're not going to know until at least tonight, tomorrow morning, or
Yeah.
even 3 days into this, depending on, how close it is and if we see any sort of dispute, and it has to go to a court situation. Um, and it's just as close. I thought personally one or the other would have run away with it. To be honest, I really did. I thought,
I do still think me. It's just this bug in between my ears
Mhm.
that thinks that one of them's gonna run away with this. I'm gonna wake up
But they're
tomorrow
not.
and it's gonna be a blowout, huh?
But they're not, and
Right.
it isn't. So it can't be. So
Well,
no
no, in
matter,
the electoral college, the count is what the count is. So no matter how you win by 2 votes, it's a winner take all
yeah,
state.
exactly. So, but in general, the vote itself in every single state, as I'm watching it over, that's why I keep on pointing over here. I have
Right.
the TV up just as well as your stuff. And I have all different channels, by the way. I'm watching
Same thing.
everybody. I don't care about who recovers the news as long as it's the correct information.
Yep.
Um, So, and these are so close. You're still talking 1,000, couple thousand, 10,000 votes in some of these places to flip the states, and we're not going to see these results. So that's why it looks like it's showing right now on one station the bubbles around the different Republican areas, strongholds, and the Democratic strongholds, and they haven't finished their counting. And you're talking about places that, 11,780 votes really change the difference of that
Yeah.
electoral college vote.
I
So.
think I think Wisconsin's going to be one of those too.
I think all of them. I think
I
all of them
don't.
that
I
we're
don't.
talking
I
about
think
primary
Georgia
rate.
right now he's up 200K with 79% in. So mathematically, you only have 4.89 million people in the state, and those
Yeah, but
and,
the biggest sectors in the state haven't put in their vote yet. See,
don't know that. Do you know
yeah,
that?
I do. I'm watching it right
All
now.
right,
They
who's
just
missing? Who's missing in Georgia then? If you're looking.
the Maricopa County, which is the largest in the state, which is like downtown and Atlanta and
Yep.
all the places around there, a lot, well, along with Savannah and the down areas around Savannah. Those are all. You're talking about a couple 100,000 votes minimum that haven't come in those areas
Right,
yet.
but a couple.
So
You're talking about a 200K lead, right? And you're talking about a county that has the votes, but
yeah,
you would have to have a large turnout, and you're talking 90 to 10 to catch
yeah.
up
Again,
to
there's
200K.
Fulton County. The difference between where Harris is and where Biden was is
Hmm.
literally 1 point right now
Okay,
at this time.
which is 200,000 votes.
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying. It's so close to call that you can't. It's this is crazy.
No, I'm
Like,
not.
so
Yeah,
to your point, no one's running away with this. Even
no.
if you think in the back of your mind with a little buzz and whatever, because I feel the same thing too. I'm
Mhm.
like, I think we all think like this, like someone should be running away with this
But
for
last,
as strong as people feel in their convictions about this, but no one's running away with this right now. It's closer than close can be. And to your point and your question, to me, I feel as though it's almost, it's like half between each election because we're sitting in the same spot. We just don't have the same circumstance.
can I use a volleyball analogy?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
You play against me, right?
Sure.
You beat me 2 sets
All
to
the
one.
time.
You beat me. Well, I did have say do that one time, so guess what?
That's true. I remember that game.
I did full time blocking, and I just let that guy
I remember.
just play
Just let
volleyball
him
around
do
me, and
what
I
he
just
does.
threw it up,
Yes, or did.
doing say do things.
Yes.
And you did have Ted, so that was unfair. That's not even a fair fight. But
No.
volleyball analogy, right? Games 2 out of 3. You win 16-14 third set, right? First set I win by 2. Second set, you win by 2. You are granted the value of winning that match,
Yeah,
right?
no matter what.
So last year, and guys, for everybody, the reason why I have this guy on, like, I voted for Biden, not passionately, but more like a bring the adults back in a room type thing.
Mhm,
You know what I'm
mhm,
saying? Like, you got to, you didn't have to vote for someone, but I chose to.
mhm.
And all of the polls had Trump ahead, and you laid out exactly what was going to happen at what time, and I might just edit some clips on this later, like on the audio. And when I woke up, you said he was going to be tied, and in some of these states, he's even going to be ahead. So, and when that happened, and the final count, I think he got to 320, right? Which, again, doesn't seem like it's close. But like you said, if all of those states are close and he wins 5 states closely, it's a blowout, but it's not.
But it's not. It's you know what I mean? It's not. It's not a blowout if you're deciding it by tens of thousands of votes. It's
100%.
hundreds of thousands of votes, millions of votes, sure, in each, area, but you're literally getting down to 11,780 votes in in different areas. And it's quite intriguing because people are so into one party or the other right now. There's such a separation. I can go everywhere. I have plenty of arguments and agreements with people on both sides. But there is such a separation in America. People feel so one way or another right now. There's not too many gray people. And I feel as though, to your point, you're like, I voted last time for this reason. And if I might ask, and you don't have to say, did you vote this time?
I did.
You did. Okay,
I
great.
did vote this time. I did,
And
but I
did
did
you
not.
vote? What was the reasoning behind your voting, if I may ask? You don't have
Um,
to. disclose
The
who you
reasoning
vote
behind my
for.
voting is elections are won and lost all the time, and in the count like in a winner take all state like California, we already know it's going to go.
Yeah.
So looking back a few years, I wanted my conscience to be as clean as possible, right?
Hmm.
Which is not never going to happen. This is politics. There's no clean conscience.
Sure.
So you,
Okay.
right? No, because for everyone you vote for, and this is the problem with Trump supporters. You vote for someone, all of a sudden he's ordained by God. All of a sudden he could fight crime. All of a sudden he has a cape on his back. All of a sudden he could do 200 push-ups, right? And then you're painting this guy into something that he's not. And then when you
No.
get called out on it, now you have to double down because your ego identity, won't just admit that someone's right. I voted for Jill Stein. In
Sure.
2016, I didn't want to vote for her because she opposed everything but stood for nothing, right? And all we heard was Russia, 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 and this, Russia, Russia, that, right? Now, if we want to make it about attacking a person and not a policy, we all gonna
Mhm.
lose that fight. Okay, all right. But I my two major stances, and I'll wrap up. And I should have actually started the 60 seconds. I'm sorry. My two major political stances, my hardline stances, are free speech and anti-war. I'm
Mhm.
a Gulf War vet, as was my father before me, and I've seen what it does.
Sure.
And one is kind of spent the last 3 years censoring us, and the other is eager to give the military industrial complex its due. Right? It's Christmas; they got to get their nut off. So um, whoever wins between those two, there's no the real winner, the real loser are us, unless we continue to vote on a local level and steer whoever's the president where he's supposed to go.
He or she
He or
is
she.
supposed to go.
Right.
Yes.
Oh, did you say
I
they?
think
What
it,
you mean they? What you mean by they?
well, I
No,
think
go ahead,
really
Chris.
it's the money in politics that really has to stop.
Right.
It's obvious for people our age. We've now seen, many different political battles that have been very close to each other, and it's being swayed by billionaires at this point. For Elon Musk to be able to use the platform of Twitter and to offer $1 million prizes for people to sign up for one political party or another. And he said, "Oh, it's not really because any political person could do it, but you had to sign a pact and some sort of a agreement there afterwards to be able to receive the money that you would be supporting a certain pact for weapons and other things." So there was a stipulation. So when you start to see things like that, they spent $1 billion in 1 week. This last week was spent between the political parties in political advertising and
Actually,
push.
close to yeah, a billion.
Yeah,
Yep.
$1 billion.
Yeah.
So you know when you see all this, you just wonder, like, if we took the money out of politics, the special interest groups, how much would it change, to your point, how people run and people are perceived by other people. Because, you're propped up by billions of dollars. Anybody looks good, and with the right marketing, with the right advertising, with the right message, and it doesn't even have to be you. Most of the political people, that's not them that are doing the messaging. It's somebody that writes these things for them.
Right.
So, you're propped up, to your point, as somebody that is really not true to who that person is, you know? And it's propped up by, advertising, marketing, imaging, and all these things. And so you start to think as though you're voting for an image rather than an actual person. And to the policy point that you mentioned, I've read both sides policy, and it's a lot of people are like, oh, who has what and what not. I'm fearful of the Republican policy. And a few things of them in there that really are shocking for what they want to do for women's rights across the board. You can argue, yes, it's want to send it to the states, and it's going to be the states that are going to do this, but
I'm not arguing that.
but but we've already seen what the states with limited power have already done over the past 3 years with nobody in power that was pushing this button, and now you've got somebody that is pushing the button. That's Roe versus Wade. Trump has come out and said that it was his move. He's the reason why. it was repealed.
He
So you've got somebody that's got this,
Thanos like snapped his finger. Yeah.
yeah, he's got his finger on the button.
Okay.
It's not just he's got his finger on the button. He's not taking his finger off the button. So if they think it's just going to be a state thing and all these things are just going to boil down the states, it's not, because there's going to be decisions that the states aren't going to be able to make, and it's going to be then sent up to Supreme Court, and then we already know how the Supreme Court's going to rule. So it's you're looking. That's what is really fearful for me, is that you're talking about a rollback in people's uh, rights and abilities to do things, and especially for women. And that's really scary. My staff, I have a couple of stores up here in Oregon, and I have to admit I'm a little bit biased the way I'm voting also, because there's the marijuana initiative on the ballots, and I'm a marijuana guy, and it's extremely difficult to run these businesses the way the rules and regulations are set up. They're basically like, you're taxed about anywhere between 88 and 94%. So, getting any profit out of your business is very, very difficult at this point. Riddled with changes in legislation every week or two, they make up a new rule and you have to dance for that. If you screw up, there's no web to help you. You just kicked out, and the next person comes in or not. So there's no real blanket for any of our people in our business, and yet we're propping up states. So when I looked at policy, and from the uh different two people that we're running here right now, I see one that Trump's like, oh, I'm into marijuana, but he's like medical. Well, that's a serious distinction. That doesn't mean that banking comes around, or if it gets rescheduled, that means it stays the way it is, which means that these businesses will never survive.
But wasn't
And
that
they're
Biden's
closing.
policy as well?
But that's not Harris's policy. Harris is to make it go recreational across the board, to lift the limits and to reschedule us from a Schedule 1 to a Schedule 3, which is not fully recreational. That's it's just rescheduling us, and it's still leaving it up to the states to make a decision whether or not they want to have it medical or recreational. But on a federal level, right now we're scheduled like the hardest narcotics in the market. So like crack cocaine is the same as marijuana scheduling right now. So you can't produce crack cocaine, you can't sell it in the open market, you can't do it as a pharmaceutical, but we're still this in the same rule structure as that. And so, and while paying taxes, while paying overhead, while paying state, federal marijuana employee, and then every employee, anything that I spend money on for the business, the little baggies that you get the weed in, any employee, that's all considered profit. So I'm taxed on that again. So that's why
Yeah.
I'm
So
I'm
every time it
prefacing.
changes hands, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So I have a little bit more skin in the game, because I'm looking for someone that is, and again, taking the money out of politics, as someone that is going to push my direction in something that's going to benefit me financially, and personally. So you can see just with my statement how easy it is to have money in politics, and how hard it is to get it out of politics at the same time. And I think that that's what's really ruining our politics. If we just made the people responsible like a regular job to produce a certain amount that they're supposed to, and not have the money just backing them no matter what for opinions, I think we'd be in a way better position,
All right.
personally.
So there's a lot to unpack, but the good thing is your diatribe was really centered around women and around marijuana. So it's very easy for me to bounce back. And
Yeah.
I think I can do this in 60 seconds. So let me start my play clock. The play clock is not in play yet, but I just want to have a little fun with it to see if I still, in fact, have the gift of gab. So we got 1 minute on the clock. All right. So in terms of women, right? You got ladies, you're in a nightclub, right? And there's two kinds of guys. There's a guy that's kind of like trying to brush up on everybody. He's like fresh, just like Trump. Remember you said that story about him having his ball sack on people. That guy's a dog. You know who he is. You know who to stay from. And there's another guy that says, "Hey, I really like you," and then all of a sudden he's like, "You're the one for me." And I think you could be the one just to get you to sleep with him. And then when you sleep with him, you wake up in the morning, he's gone. That's the Republicans. And that's the Democrats. Because the fact of the matter is,
Oh,
excuse me, I'm on the
no,
clock.
no, no,
Zip
no.
it. I'm on the clock. All right.
Okay.
In 2009, you had Barack Obama had two opportunities to codify abortion. Okay, he had 58 and 2 independents, and he didn't do it. All right. Kamala Harris had an opportunity to do it, which leaves me 15 seconds for marijuana. All right. She didn't have an opportunity to do it. But I'm saying these are people that could be fighting for it now. She's in office, which leaves me just enough time for marijuana. She arrested people unfairly, disproportionately for marijuana, and now all of a sudden she's like free marijuana. Who is this woman? Is she that person or is she this person? The floor is yours.
Okay. I'll go back to your examples. First of all, I don't think it's the guy in the club that's not there in the morning on the Democratic
He's
side at all.
gone. He's gone.
No, I think this guy that wakes
Hold on.
up
Let
in
me
the
give you a
morning
60
and
seconds.
asks
Hold
when
up.
you
Let
want
me
to
get the
go have
clock.
breakfast
Let
and
me
can I get, I didn't get your number last night, so like, can I have your number and let's go get breakfast because
let me get the clock for you. Hold up.
yeah,
So I don't, be rude.
sure.
Go ahead.
So you know, again, the example is that you said that the guy wakes up in the morning and pieces out and you never see him again. I don't think that at all. I think it's wakes up in the morning, there's a, let's go have breakfast and there's a cup of water and a flower that he grabbed and he's ready to date the girl afterwards. And the other example is marijuana. You realize Harris is the vice president, right? And vice presidents don't have any power whatsoever. So everybody's coupling her into the Joe Biden thing, which is true. I mean, she's a vice president, but think of the past vice presidents and what they've done. Nothing.
Right.
Nothing comes to mind. So for someone to say, oh, she had the opportunity to do something while she was in office, yeah, sure, she could have pushed for something. But, the pulpit, as well as the House, as well as the Senate, it wasn't conducive for that. In fact, nothing got done in the House over the past 4 years, like one article that, or maybe 4 articles that went through. So I agree to your points that yes, people could have done things prior to help to codify these things, but with the House not wanting to pass anything and then having a Republican Senate at the same time, how are you going to get these things through when they're literally on the mic every single day
All right.
saying that they'll never do
Got
anything?
it. All right, let's take the vice presidency out of it, even though she herself said that she agrees she wouldn't have done anything different than what Joe have done by her. But those are her
Sure,
words.
sure,
All
I
right.
get that. Yeah, you have to say
All right.
that.
So,
You have to say
but
that,
let's assume
right?
she didn't say that because
You're
you
the
have.
vice
No, but
president.
because you
This is
have.
the president. You got to say,
No, but
I
Chris,
do
because you
what
have to
Joe.
say that, let's assume she didn't. All right.
Sure, sure.
As district attorney, she had an opportunity to impact people's lives in a different way, and she didn't. Okay. Why should we believe her
Oh,
now?
oh, again,
She arrested people for marijuana
while she was
disproportionately.
the DA,
Yes,
while she was the DA.
and then when they wanted to let people out, she said it would affect the prison industrial complex.
It would infect the personal industrial.
So
But
what
I
are
have
we
a question
talking
for
about
you.
here? This
When
girl
I
all of a sudden
before,
loves marijuana. What's up?
yeah, but so does in the fucking United States because watch it, we've gone recreational over the past 15 years. Why, Jason? Because it is due to the age of people. Okay. Because every 15 years we have a different group of people running the United States. And so these things, any idea in the United States takes about 15 years to matriculate. And comes from Forbes. There's an article that happens, and they used gay marriage as an example. It starts as an idea, and it takes about 15 years for this to actually get through the courts and the systems for something that actually be behind it so that you could actually go get married to be gay, right? It's a 15-year process. So it's generational. We're talking about generational things. 15 years ago, no one in America wanted marijuana to be legalized, except for quote unquote the stoners, right? And now you have the whole country
Well,
that's legal,
I
basically.
mean, I live in California, so
Yeah, exactly. There you go. And then you have the
it's
whole
not a fair
country now
assertion
that
of me.
is legal and is growing and selling marijuana and is talking about a full legalization. So people change their minds about things.
I
And
hope
so,
so.
yeah, well, if you hope so, then why are you saying Harris
because
can't
because
change her
she
mind?
has a pattern of going the other way.
But she
I've seen nothing
Again,
that
she
even she
didn't
even
change her mind. She
suggests.
just adopted what everybody else adopted and realized that marijuana is not that bad. It's not crack cocaine. It's not heroin. It's not a Schedule One drug, and it's okay to sell it, to manufacture it, to distribute it to customers as long as the legal limits of what each state has provided is done by the person who's providing that service or making that product. So I see change in the United States over the past
And
15
I
years.
see going where the political wind blows. Okay,
Well, and you have to
of
say the same thing
course.
about Trump or any other politician
And
that
when we're talking about Trump, I'll say that about him too.
every
Again, Trump
politician
is the wolf,
with
Trump is the dog. We already know what's up.
yeah, I know.
Trump is the
I'm just
wolf.
saying, it's like
That's not the
every
fox.
politician changes with time. I
Right.
mean, even Mitt Romney, talking about how he changed his mind in the past 15 years and different stances that look, the Pope's changing the stance in the Catholic Church about different things because people change. It's generational. Every 15 years is a different generation. And just like we at our generation, you and me, Jason, we don't think of marijuana as that big of a deal. We grew up around it, our aunts and uncles smoked it, people around New York,
I've
it's
actually
very
never
casual.
smoked. I've never smoked anything in my entire life, but we both know I support it.
Yeah,
Right? I mean, we've
exactly.
known each other for a long time, and you both know
But we grew up in it.
but when it wasn't popular, we both know I supported it. And this,
Right, but
and mind you,
I'll
this
use
is
an
a guy,
example
and
of
mind you, this is a guy that doesn't even smoke. I don't smoke anything.
exactly,
So
exactly.
let me
Well,
grab
I'm
a
using an example of my
garbage.
nephews in Colorado, who are one generation below me. They're like 10, 15 years below me. And I went there right when marijuana was starting to happen, legalization. The first four dispensaries or six were legalized in Colorado. One of our friends, Dan Volpe, had one
Okay.
of those stores that was legalized. So I went to go see him. And when I went, I flew in to go see, my family, my father's side of the family lives in Colorado Springs, and we're a pioneer family out of Colorado. So they've been there, forever.
Amen.
And I flew in, I landed, I got in the car with my cousins who picked me up from the airport. I'm like, all right, who's got the weed? I'm like, I didn't bring anything because I'm not going to fly with this shit, and it's fucking legal in the state. So who's got the weed? And they're like, none of us smoke. And I'm like, what? Like, none of you smoke. You got the best weed in the world right now at this time, because it was the first in legalization. Like, none of you smoke, Unc. They're like, listen, you got your stoners over there, you got your jocks, you got your hippies, you got your hardcore people, and these kids it's like going to 7-Eleven to them to go get marijuana. So you could see the
And here,
difference in generation. Well, I'm like,
but
afraid. I'm like, hey, does anybody have weed still? Type of thing. And they're like, dude, it's like going to 7-Eleven. This is 15 years ago.
that's like getting steroids in Brazil, right? It's
Yeah,
just at
yeah,
the
exactly.
bodega.
You're like steroids, great. In Brazil and here, they're like, don't put them
It's
on
at
your
the
body.
corner store.
Exactly. They're like, you want the cream or you want the injection? So it's like, so that's why I think it's generational because you have every 15 years a and it's the same thing with real estate and a lot of things are generational because people have different ideas and they've grown up around different things and
Yeah.
they're accustomed to these things and it takes a while for people to feel the change and then to understand it. That's the 15-year gap.
But here's where the meeting. Let me interrupt you because here's where the meeting of the minds comes to a clash, and this is where we stop talking about left and right. We start talking about up and down. All right, weed being banned was a very popular thing 15 years ago. But
Yes.
be candid with me. If someone that's wealthy wanted weed, or if she or if Trump wanted to smoke a doobie, or if she wanted to throw people in prison and smoke marijuana and laugh, right? They were going to get their joints. And the same thing with abortion, right? Let's say these Republican guys, right? If someone in their family wants to get an abortion,
They find a way to get that
they're
person involved.
it's an and the same thing with the Democrats.
And and it's and
It's
it's a
up and
perfect.
down.
You're
If they want it, they're
great.
pretending. They're pretending, dude. In fact, they
It
even
is a great example.
go
It
ahead,
is
please.
a perfect example.
No,
You're
you
you're 100%
no, your
correct.
light just lit up. The floor is yours, my
Because
man.
no, there's another example of this is when you're sick and you're dying,
Hmm.
you know? People are like, "Oh, I don't want uh uh a heart that you can make in an incubation," right? They're like that's so religious people are like put up the crosses like, "Oh, you're doing God's work, da 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 da." But if you're on your deathbed and someone says to you, "We can generate a new heart for you and put it in like you're putting in a new muffler to your car. We're going to take your stem cells, we're going to grow it in an incubator, and then we're going to open up your chest and throw in a new heart, and you're going to be pumping away. And it's not going to reject it because it's going to have your cells in it and the whole 9 yards. And you're on your deathbed, and your whole family's there like, we love this person. We want to put this thing in it. Like whatever it takes, just fucking do it. And that's the point that I think that we all miss is that when you're in a desperate situation and you need something, that is life threatening, you don't care. All your perceived values beforehand or information, it goes out the window. Everybody's just like, keep me alive. And that's why I think what you just brought up is a perfect example, is because there are situations when people just want to survive.
Right.
And
But
I
don't you?
think
And they're preying on that, Chris.
exactly.
Vote for me, but vote for me first. We'll work that out in January
And
2025.
that's where the money comes into it, because people are praying to try it, like I am for marijuana. Like, I would rather be in a better situation with my businesses, and people do that in oil, and they do it with corn, and they do it with whatever subsidy they're in, or whatever they're producing that is going to put them even in the healthcare, childcare. You need childcare. You're going to support someone who's supporting childcare and the whole nine yards. Again, if you take the money out, because these big lobby groups pay so much money to push their agendas ahead, then I think we would actually have the real information coming up that, people that the candidates are supporting the things that people really want, rather
Right.
than the money that's pushing you to like a certain thing.
I like it. You just thumbs up yourself on your Zoom
Oh, I
call. Look at
like
it.
that.
Look
I
at a
don't know
little
how I
thumb.
did that, but I like that.
Well, if you
I'm
put
gonna
up your
thumbs up
right hand, it's
myself.
like raising your hand to talk. So yeah, and you're gonna see like this circle. It's like a please wait thing.
Doing
Not
thumbs
for
up
me,
for
but for
myself.
thee. Fuck off, Chris. You get to do it and I can't, man.
I like it.
But
So anyway,
listen,
it's
I
it's I think that's very important. I think you said a very important thing, Jason.
yeah.
I think it was very astute also. And
Mm.
is that, we're talking about left and right, but not up and down, you
And
know.
they're enjoying this. I'd like
Yeah,
to just we're gonna move. We have other subject matters to move on, and
yeah,
then we'll look at the poll again. But I'd like to
sure.
finish by this because I was part of a news outlet called Undivided,
Hmm.
and when the cat's away, the mice play. They let me do my own 8 minute segment, and I'm like, you got Ted Cruz during the blackout saying "Stay strong," but he retreated with his family to Mexico, right? You got AOC telling everybody to wear a mask in New York, but she like retreated to Florida with her boyfriend, sitting on his lap, just chilling in the state that it's okay, right? Then you got someone like Bill Gates or whatever telling you to use a gas stove, but he's flying over your problems in a private jet. So I'd like to conclude by saying this and wrap up because I know I'm taking these acute subject matters and making a generalization, and I don't mean to do that, but I want to say this. Stop looking to your saviors where you only find your oppressors. You think it's Trump, I think it's both of them, and that's where I'm with kind of with that. Is there
No,
anything is there
I
anything you
don't
want to
think
say
it's
before we
just
move
Trump.
on to the next?
Yeah, that's where I just want to stop you, because I don't think it's just Trump. I don't, I think it's the system in
Right.
general.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's both sides. Both sides have problems. Again, there's always a rotten egg in a bunch.
No
You know what I
doubt.
mean? You can't, for everybody just to generalize people and say, oh, the Democrats are awesome. Oh, the Republicans are awesome. You can't do that, because you
No.
have individual people that lie within this. So, and that's where I think the money in politics is the problem, is because they just make these general things, and people think that there's these big sweeping things, and we're literally talking about people that can change their minds,
Nice.
you
Hey,
know.
people in the comment section, if you want to comment, the live chat's over there. We actually see all the comments. Chris is watching
I do.
five different.
I don't know how I see
No,
it. Oh, there's the
yeah,
chat.
it's actually
Okay.
on the YouTube thing, and I'll watch that for us. You got five other monitors. You're doing God's work right now, so I'll monitor that for both of us. And something comes up, we'll answer those questions together.
Okay, cool.
Let's take a look at the map again. Um, my map is still stuck at this, though it does look like Harris went
Harris
from
is pulled up,
172 to
but
192 or something like
there's
that.
that 230, and I think he was at like,
Ah! He said, "There goes that 230 again."
that's where we were the last time. This is fucking crazy. You would think that there would be some sort of a swing change, or
I thought the swing change would be the late votes were predictable in 2020 because there was a pandemic.
yes,
And if common sense tells you, and okay, guys, for Democrats and Republicans, if you were in a state,
Republicans.
Crips and Bloods, but if you were in a state like Florida and Texas, you voted in person, right? And if you were a Democrat and you identified with just staying in your house until COVID went away, maybe, you were going to vote late. So it wasn't that much of a surprise to see a late surge. But you, man, Chris, you were like, they're going to stick it up the GOP's ass on this one. You said,
Well,
wait for it.
Yeah, well, I think there's still going to be a late surge
Yeah,
also. It looks
right.
as though I don't know how it's going to be really fucking
I think the
close.
lead surge is going to be the other way though.
I don't know.
I have
I can't
no
tell you
I
that
have
this right
no
now because
empirical
there's now
evidence.
153, 190 to your
Right.
point on this that she's gaining, this is the same time than the same thing we did last time.
Right.
It's like, he's so close to winning and everybody's like, "Oh my God,
I
he's gonna
almost
win." And then the votes just start to come in. There's a lot of battlegrounds. It's one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight battlegrounds that we were talking about
well
prior
they
and
just
talking
called
about.
Carolina, so make that 7. North Carolina,
Yeah.
they just called it.
They just called it. So
Yeah.
you're talking who did go to Carolina?
Oh, Trump.
Trump went to Carolina. So what's he at? Like 230? Pull up your thingy
It's still
again.
230. That was how
Oh,
we got to that was how
that
we got
was
to
the
230.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
so
like you said,
like
that might be one of his better shots. Mhm.
yeah, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like it's just so close. Again, I thought it was gonna be just one way or the other.
Right.
You know what I mean? I
I did
didn't think it
too.
would be this
You and
close.
I
And
thought the opposite before we got on this podcast.
yes.
You were like, "Okay, dude, we'll see tonight," and I'm like, I
You're like, it's
yeah.
gonna be a blowout. I'm like, it's gonna be a blowout, and it is fucking
And
like
I'm glad I'm
this.
talking to you because I don't want to hear nobody. Oh, you're for Trump. I'm like, no, it's not. It's
No,
not.
it's to be
It's
honest with
not
you,
like
I
that.
don't think that we're Americans, and you can vote for whomever you wish.
Right.
I've been saying this to everybody that I talk to, and
Yes.
I have my personal opinions.
Yes. And
Uh,
if they're ignorant, ignorance is not only bliss. It's
it doesn't
constitution. It's
matter if
constitutional.
ignorance. I said it last time. Ignorance is bliss,
But it's
and
constitutional. It's also constitutional.
ignorance is definitely bliss, and I see a lot of ignorant bliss people out there, and it must be feel great to be ignorant in a while for different. But I have to admit I'm ignorant in some things too.
Right.
No one has all the knowledge in the world. No one can have all the answers in the world.
Coming
We're
on Chris, you coming on this podcast and telling me what you don't know is actually the reason why this podcast has legs. You're like, Jay, this is what I don't know. And,
yeah,
and
I
then
don't.
and then when you're like, this is what I do, then all of a sudden the radar comes up because you again, you've been a kind of a mystic Mac with these predictions, right? Like I'm 54 years old. I've only been wrong about one. I thought HW. I was in the army at the time, and when you're
Yeah, I
surrounded by
knew.
when you're
Yeah,
surrounded by soldiers that they vote Republican. So
yeah, of
I
course.
thought Bush was going to win that second time, and he didn't.
Hmm.
HW and lost to Clinton. So that was the only one I got wrong. I got every single one of them right because I see the strength and the weakness of a candidate. I see the platform that they're running on. Is it a strong enough platform? Right.
Yeah.
For example, like I'm for education, but I don't think I would ever run for office on an education platform. It's just it's noble, but it's weak.
And I think that brings up a conversation that you and I had earlier is that, you know, I don't think this is a real like quote unquote election that we've ever seen. And can we do this every single time? Like, you know, Harris jumped into the race 3 months ago, 3, 4 months ago, basically. She had like however many days to get this done. Days.
That
Where
works
we've
for
been,
her. Trust me.
oh, I'm not saying if it works for or against. I'm just
Okay.
like, do we need 2 years of people running, campaigns? Like, I don't know. And does it, and to that point, if, Trump had that amount of time to push his opinion over and over and over again, and to your point, she was silent Bob in the back of Joe Biden, letting Joe Biden do his babbles. Um, so,
And
you
now we
know,
can say that comfortably.
I could have
No,
said it all the way
no, but you
around.
and I said that comfortably in 2020.
Oh, I would
What?
say it effectively all along. They're both too old to be
No,
president.
but guys, go back if you can. Go back, and I'll actually clip the whatever. I
Okay.
told you that Biden was not the same guy that wiped the floor with Paul Ryan in that VP debate in 2020 or
Yeah. Yeah.
2012. He wasn't
Yeah.
that same guy. But I decided that this version. But what were my words? This version was still better than Trump. I
Better than Trump.
decided that this guy coming into November on a dementia drumstick was still
Yeah.
better than Trump. That was
Yeah.
2020, and here we are now.
And they're both too old. Donald Trump shouldn't be running. It's just, they're so stuck on this guy being the savior of the world and
Hmm.
in people's minds on the Republican side that they didn't kick him out like they kicked out Biden.
Yeah.
I mean, the things that Trump says religiously every single night that are lies that we all know that are lies. I mean, you'd have to be a complete fool to not know that things that he says are complete lies. Um, so
I mean, how about the complete lies that are made up about him? And this has been my complaint with the Democratic Party. There's
sure.
enough about this guy that's true, where you don't have to manufacture stories about
But
him.
what are you remanufacturing? Because at this point, I don't think there's anything that you could say that would be manufactured
Well,
about the guy.
they're good people on both sides.
Of course.
That was debunked by Snopes. All right. There are so many things about him that are actually true, where CNN doesn't have to make up stories about him. You know
Well,
what I'm
you're
saying?
making up the stories about him saying that there were good people on both sides.
Well, the Charlottesville thing, they're saying that he was speaking positively for the KKK, and they didn't read the entire quote. In fact, how about I'll just go recently? They
Okay.
said that Liz Cheney should be in front of a firing squad, and that wasn't what he said. What he said was, if you want everybody to go to war, grab a weapon and then you stand in front of the barrel of 9 weapons. So
And
how
they pull the trigger, and you see how she feels
right.
and how she's
So
going to react.
and when in the history of man have you ever gone in front of a firing squad armed? So
When
it
in the
does.
history of man have you ever heard someone who was a presidential candidate talk about a firing squad of
It wasn't
another U.S. official?
that, and you're repeating the lie. He didn't say firing squad.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He said,
Get in
grab
front of
if
a
you want to go
nine
to war,
barrel
grab
gun.
a weapon yourself and be on the other end of 8 or 9 guns and see how you feel about that. That
It
was his
will put
his
you
exact
up.
quote. Now, and I'm not comfortable with this. I don't want to defend this guy. All
No, no,
right.
I don't. I know.
But that's
I want to find the real quote here because at
the
this
action.
point,
But they sold that as they want her to be executed in front of a firing squad. That's a lie, Chris. That's not a distortion of the truth.
yes,
That's not a
but at the
manipulation
same
of the
time,
facts.
that's what he's
That is a
implying.
knowing lie.
But that's what he's
No,
implying.
he's not. Why, then,
Oh,
why, then why would he say arm herself? Why would he say grab a gun? Who the hell takes their own gun to a firing squad, Chris? No, that's not what he was saying.
he's saying one person against 9 people with guns?
He didn't
What
say
is
that.
that?
Grab a gun and be on the
I don't
other
know. I'm
end
just
of
wondering.
9
Nine
barrels.
people with with barreled guns pointing at you. Grab a gun and see how you feel. I mean, what do you think he's saying when
He's
he says that? I
saying
mean, you
that
can read
grab a.
between the lines if you
Are
want
you,
or not. You can take it for face value,
You
but
take
read
it for
between
face
the
value.
lines.
Nobody brings a gun to a firing squad, Chris. We just don't do that. We
No
don't
shit. So
do
why would he say
that.
that? So why didn't we say
Why
that?
would they
He's
call it a
trying
firing
to.
squad? That's not the question. Don't shift the question. The question is, why
What?
would they say he wants her to be executed in front of a firing
Because
squad? Why would they lie
he's
about
talked
that?
about how she's disgusting. She's a disgrace to her family.
That's a non sequitur.
Pardon?
Those things are factual, but not logically connected to what we're talking about right now. That's a classic non
That she's a
sequitur,
disgrace
Chris.
to her family?
Being a disgrace to her family, or if she wants to go to war, put her own work in, are two facts that are
Yeah,
not
but
logically connected. Where's the logical connection of him finding her disgusting and them misquoting it?
because it's all rhetoric, it's all negative rhetoric against her, and he's implying in the last statements that he made, and this is the very end statements. Like if you build up something on somebody,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like first you're like she's gross, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then she's like, oh, she's stupid. She shouldn't be a senator.
Sure.
She shouldn't have a position. She shouldn't be in this. She shouldn't be in that. She's a disgrace to her family. Oh, and by the way, if she was ever in a war situation and in front of a bunch of barrels of guns, and I would say, go grab a gun and see how you feel. It's the buildup of the rhetoric to prove a point. It's not just making one statement. And that's what I'm trying to
And what
point
I'm
out
trying to
here.
say is there are enough things about him verbatim that he can hang him. The guy, all you got to do is
Yeah,
sit back and let him talk enough, and he can hang
exactly.
himself with
I
his own
completely
words.
agree.
But what you do when they misquote him, they create a
Yeah,
bandwagon fallacy.
yeah, no,
Do you
I
understand what I'm
understand your
saying?
point.
They give something the other side ammunition to argue about,
No, I
and make
completely
them
agree with
presume
you. You
if this
shouldn't
is a
misquote
lie, then
anybody.
all of it's a lie, which is
No,
not
I
true.
agree. You shouldn't misquote anybody. I agree with that. But the fact of the
It's
matter is,
lazy.
pardon?
It's lazy.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's lazy. It's you shouldn't misquote anybody. It's the wrong thing to do, and it gives fire for the other team to say blah 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 blah. The problem is that we've been so desensitized by everything that he says because it's now 12 years later of listening to this guy talking about how, first it was the Central Park Five, right? They should all be thrown in jail and all the black guys and da da da.
Well,
Then it
like Harris, people change.
well,
That was in the
exactly.
'80s. At that time, Harris was throwing people in jail. So what are we talking about here?
And then it was Obama's papers, right?
You had Harris block evidence with someone on death row
I'm just
that
wondering.
would have
And then it was
exonerated
Obama's
him.
papers afterwards,
Oh,
and then
gee,
he started.
that was silly. Oh my God, that dude was silly.
So I'm just saying he keeps on doing the same thing that you're pointing out other people do, but we're so desensitized to what he says now that people don't even take it as negative rhetoric, so that they can be like, "Oh, I got you."
We are.
But if the other
We're
side says,
desensitized.
yes, everybody is,
No, no,
and
no. No,
however,
they're
if the
not. This
other
made national
side,
news, Chris.
yes,
They're oversensitized. This made national
if the
news.
other side says anything that is, I don't know, wrong in any way, they're hung up on a tree because they try to be so perfect.
Right.
He tries to be not perfect, basically. He's just like a verbal garbage all day long. And when you meet him in person, he's the same way too. If he'll actually talk to you, because he doesn't talk to the normal person. He sticks his head up like this. He walks around like this, and you can't get eye contact with him. He looks above everybody, and it's really tough to talk to him. It's really tough to have a conversation. He won't speak to you unless he looks his eyes down and like for a second you might want to engage you. Besides that, he won't talk to you.
That's
So the
definitely your
comment,
personal experience with him. So that's
oh
cool.
yeah, no, and
Yeah.
this is many times over.
Yeah.
I mean, I sat next to him at a table all
Right.
night long. I've hung out with his
I've heard,
daughter.
well, I've heard mixed things about him. And I worked in a cardiology practice that had, well, I can't say the names on YouTube. I will talk
Sure,
about them off YouTube.
of
Like
course.
people that basically own the world with those, think of every last name of people that you think probably run a piece of the world. And
Hmm.
some of them are saying the exact same thing you're saying, and some of them are like, you know what, I thought he was an idiot, and I actually got a chance to talk to him. Maybe that was
Well, I
the one.
don't think he's an
Maybe that was
idiot.
the one time no, but I'm
No, I
saying
don't
like
think he's
no,
an
but I'm
idiot.
saying like he's doing this, which makes you think, okay, all right, screw this guy. He's an arrogant prick, whatever, blah blah blah. But then I've heard people that actually talked to him, and after they talked to him, they were a different kind of way.
Well, I've had
I'm
conversations with him also,
right.
and he's not stupid.
I didn't say
He's an
stupid. I meant
educated man.
like an
Yeah.
idiot. No, an
No, he's
idiot and
not even
stupid
an
are not the
idiot
same thing.
savant. He's
No,
not even like an idiot savant.
not when I said idiot, I didn't mean stupid. I wasn't talking about intelligent. I was talking about
Sure.
acting like.
Yeah, acting like an idiot. Yeah.
Yes.
No, he's doing it all on purpose.
Hmm.
Right? There's no idiot action whatsoever. He knows he casts this way. If you look at old interviews with him when he was like 18, 20 something years old, he's trying to project this image. He's been doing it his whole life. He has not stopped. It's been his MO the whole time. He's tried to project this strong guy that he's, good looking and he never fails and all his business things, go forward, forget about all the things that have failed around him because
Yeah.
that has nothing to do with him. And it's been the same persona that he's taken straight. And this is why I'm saying he's been ramping this up for years. And starting with his rhetoric, and now we're to the point where we're so desensitized to what he says that if anybody says something opposite, they fucking shine the light on them harder than fucking hell. But if
Yeah.
he says something, he grabs a mic and does this to the fucking mic. Oh, I mean,
Well, it raises
like,
the question.
oh, he was just kidding. It was fine.
But
What
think,
he said about the people in Charlotte are both
but
great on
take,
both sides, so he doesn't mean that. But every single time I hear, and then I hear it on every single
Beto, I
news
see you.
channel, and the echo phone from every person out there. Oh, he didn't care. And then it's the other side. Oh, he did. He was so after it. Oh, he didn't care. And they make excuses for everything he fucking says. Like anything that comes out of the man's mouth
I want you to take what you just said. Like
is,
we're
is an
desensitized for
excuse.
him,
Yeah.
right? We're desensitized by him. We
Yes.
kind of light up everybody else. And I want to end this part by asking a fun question that we don't have to answer. How squeaky clean was Barack Obama?
Right?
Think about like taking
If
someone's
they could have
worst
gotten
moment from
something,
1978. That happened in 78. That's who you are now. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. Right? Just like everybody under the sun. And like you said, desensitized against him, lighting everybody else up. But I want to finish with that question before I read this question on the chat. How squeaky clean was Barack Obama?
he must have
Who,
been
by the way,
pretty
Joe Rogan, who endorsed
yeah.
Trump yesterday, said that Barack Obama was his favorite president in his lifetime. He said when the rest of the world looked at the USA and they saw who's your leader, who's the president, oh, it's that guy. Cool.
Well, yeah,
Okay, we're good. We're
but
good.
it's crazy because
Sweet.
now, to your point, he's flipped his mind.
No, he
He's
hasn't.
now going for Trump,
He,
and people are calling Harris's presidential bid as an extension of Obama. I've heard it from many of my Republican colleagues. They said
it's not
this
even
is just
close.
pardon?
They're not even comparable, except they have a D
No,
next to
I'm
their
saying
name.
this is the rhetoric that I've heard
Right.
from my Republican friends
Hmm.
that have been pounding this in for over 2 years now. Is Biden's just an extension of Obama, and Obama's really running the presidency right now for the past 4 years. He's been the one that behind the scenes running it all. And when Harris gets in, if she gets in, it's just another extension of Obama's presidency. I've heard that from I can't tell you how many different
I wouldn't even
Republican
call her
people.
an extension from Biden's presidency, who's closer to home with that than Obama. Right?
Well,
Obama wasn't
that's
even,
why they're saying it's just an extension of
and
Obama. So
and
it's an extension of Obama, it's an
and I,
extension of Obama, yet Joe Rogan liked Obama and thought he was a great president.
he
But
was.
all of a sudden we're one extension away at Biden, and he doesn't seem to feel that way. And then at
He does.
Harris, which is another extension, he's
He
still like,
doesn't feel that way about Harris. He
I'm
said
just saying,
he said he
you
would
can
have
show
voted
the
for
flip.
Elizabeth Warren. Okay,
You
he
can
said
show
he
the
would have
flip.
voted for Amy Klobuchar. He said he would
You
have voted
you
for
just showed the
Tulsi
flip
Gabbard.
in
He says he would have voted for Michelle Obama if she ran. Okay,
but in
he doesn't
12
feel that way about Kamala Harris,
I get that, but everybody's saying that it's an extension of the Obama
and they're
presidency.
wrong.
So,
Do
I
we
know
agree
that
that
they're
they're
wrong,
wrong?
but that's the rhetoric. I know that
Okay.
they're wrong, and I agree with you that they're wrong,
But
but
that's a
that's the
but that's a
rhetoric.
type of person. We can divide 6
But
categories. I don't like
so
labeling people, but that's a type of Trump
yeah,
voter.
no, I'm just saying in general, you see how people flip and change their minds.
Yeah.
But some people are held to the account, like you're like
They
Joe
did with
Rogan,
Harris.
so whatever, he changed his mind. Now he
They did
likes
with
Trump.
Harris, right? 2020, she ran. She was the most finance candidate in that primary. Didn't get one
Yeah, Trump
delegate,
gave her
not
money,
one single delegate. And yeah, and Trump donated to that campaign. But here we go, 4 years
and he's
later.
now switched his mind on her.
Oh, speaking of switching, though, nobody liked that woman. Nobody voted for her in
Well,
2020.
he
Now all of a
gave
sudden she's the
money,
nominee. Shazam! She's the most. She's this
but
beloved person.
he
And
gave
if
her
man, get
money
the
for
fuck
her
out of here, yo. Come
campaign
on, what are we talking about?
originally, right?
Okay,
No, no, I'm questioning. Did he wrote a check? This stupid ass fucking signature is on a check for her over $10,000 to her campaign originally. So
for
he and
the
I want
2020 presidency,
yeah, no, not for from when she ran in California for the be the DA.
right?
He put money into her campaign, said that she was great, smart, intelligent,
Oh,
has going in the right direction, everything that he's backing, that he's interested in, and that's why he's putting his money into
right.
her. And now he's saying that she's not any of those
I'm
things.
just glad that you're not intellectually lazy about this. We both
No, I'm just
recognize
saying
we both
there's not a
recognize that this
flip.
is a category. And if
Yeah,
in
there's a
fact,
flip on everybody.
no, but if
There's
in fact he did, I believe he wrote a check for her when she won senator, but not. But I
it
don't
might
think
have been
she.
senator
I
or
don't.
DA. I
I
can't
don't think
remember.
it was for president.
No, it wasn't for president. No,
No,
it
he's
wasn't
running
for
himself.
It was
That would be
yeah,
the
no, it was
craziest.
it was
The
either
guy's wrong.
senator or it was the DA. I can't remember. He wrote a check for one of her
All right,
campaigns.
so my guy Beto Kayona said, Jay, who you got winning? Okay, to answer your question, Chris has in the beginning coming into tonight. Let's just talk about coming in,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Before we change our minds, right?
No, I'm not
I
changing my mind.
had Trump by a lot.
Yes,
My man Chipsy had Harris by a lot.
we were
Uh,
both like this.
we're
Like,
both.
on the sides
If
of
you
the
had to
book.
label us, because there's really not a label for us, I would say the closest label for us are left-leaning centrist. We
Yes.
like our guns and our gay people.
Yeah, I have guns. I've got one.
Yeah. In fact, we should arm gay people everywhere, right?
Yeah, should I go get my gun and put it
No.
on while I'm
No,
sitting
but you
here?
know what we should do? Like Kyle Friend, like every gay volleyball player, Brandon Clemens, shirt off, have him with a big old AR-15 and have a billboard and say, and the billboard's supposed to say, only you can prevent a hate crime.
See,
I,
we're center left for
yeah,
sure. I don't know who's going to win at this
yeah.
point.
Hmm.
Again, it's going to go to the 8 different states. It's going to go to these little counties that are going to decide the vote by 10, 20,000 votes. And then if there's anomalies, Trump's already, I sent you an article because they already put in lawsuits against the election even prior to it ending. A lot of them were thrown out in Georgia today. Federal judge threw out the ones in Georgia because they were trying to hold back
Right.
ballots that were mailed in. So,
But
and
Georgia
they've
has a
already
paper trail, so they'll work that out.
yeah,
Georgia's
no, I'm not
one of the
worried
states
about
that has a
anything
paper
being
trail.
worked out
Yeah,
personally. We have the safest, fairest election in the world.
right.
It's been proven over and
Now we
over and
want
over.
to choose. I want to choose our words carefully. He didn't say
Yes.
100% safe. He said the safest and fairest. Every
Yes.
election is going to be fraud. All right,
There's going to be
and there's going to be.
problems.
And for my Republican friends, relax because there are people trying to commit fraud for Donald Trump. Just like
Oh,
I mean,
big
something
time.
else
But,
that the
you
lurking
know,
variable. No, but the lurking
but
variable
you're
people aren't
talking
taking
about
into consideration.
0.00001% of the vote that there would be ever any a problem for. So
Right,
that was statistically out of the last election. That's
which
what
is
came out.
like 28,000,
Yeah,
which is
across
spread
exactly
across the United States.
across the entire United States,
Right,
which is nothing.
and some
It's
and
statistically
American
absolutely
Samoa. I don't know.
nothing, and it wouldn't switch any particular vote in any particular county in every particular state in any particular way.
Right.
And it was proven through the lawsuits that Trump poised
Hmm.
in each of the states the last election by Republican and Trump appointed judges that we have the safest and the fairest election system in the world. And yet, people are still questioning our election system. In fact, Donald Trump has come out and said that if the votes don't go his way, then the thing is rigged.
Well,
Um,
I think it's really cool what you say to the press, right? But what you say in a court of law and how a judge rules are two completely different things. So me, anything someone says, all right, they're going to say what they say, but what they
yeah,
say in
sure,
court
sure, you can
and
say
what they say
whatever.
in court, that's the one I'm going to walk away with, right?
Exactly.
And
And
Trump
that's
was,
what happened.
yeah, well, Trump was actually right about Pennsylvania this time. They actually made a ruling in court that he was correct this time around about people turning away voters for early voting in
Yeah,
Pennsylvania.
it has nothing to do with any of the voting
No, no, it
numbers or
has nothing to do
this
with
time
voting
around.
fraud. I'm just saying,
It has
no,
nothing.
but I just shifted the conversation of what people's,
Yeah, yeah, there was
what you tell the
one
press is one thing, and
lawsuit.
what you say in court is another.
Yeah, it was one lawsuit out of all, I think it was like 180 different lawsuits that they put through. It was one lawsuit that he got one rule changed because it had nothing to do with the voting system or the votes or the
Right.
vote tallying or anything to do with the numbers of votes or anything to do with the changing of the votes or anything. It just had to do with the processes that he wanted changed.
I,
So
I just go ahead.
we're stuck at 230 again, right? Put
Yeah,
up that
who do you
board.
listen? I saw one
Crazy.
channel call Nebraska for Harris, and now I just saw
And
CNN call Nebraska for Trump.
yeah,
What's going on?
this is what I'm saying to you. This is going to be so fucking close. It's going to go overnight. There are going to be lawsuits filed just as there were in other fucking states. This is just nuts.
Yeah,
Like,
well, there'll be no excuses this time. There's just too many people watching. There's just too
no,
many.
it's not that there aren't excuses. There were never excuses before. There
Well, there
wasn't.
were plenty
That
of
was all
excuses.
fabricated.
You're operating as a presumption that excuses are true. There were plenty of excuses. Okay, we're just not. We're not going to have them this time around.
Yeah, but we went through the court system and all those quote unquote excuses or fabrications were
We're
all lies.
right.
So we've already established that. So there wasn't anything in the last votings that was a problem or anomaly that would have made any difference. So this, as far as I'm concerned, however the vote comes out is going to be the way that we all voted.
Okay.
I don't, and
I
it's going
just
to,
want it. I want it desperately to be a blowout. I want
it's
it.
not, we both did,
I
but it's not
know.
going to be that.
I want it.
That's why
I
we're both
just.
like,
I was
"Er?"
just hoping.
know?
Look, the RNC and the DNC are not going to change their stance as far as
No,
accountability,
no, no,
right?
not at all.
And we have a whole section of the blame game. We have a 60-second
Of
lightning round
course.
of the blame game. But
Sure.
I would like voters and people to just After this election, take a step back. You voted for Harris. You voted for Trump. We've known each other for 20 years. We just want what's right for our family. And sometimes you're misguided, sometimes you're misled, and sometimes you're right. Right.
Sure.
And
It's
and
what being
and
human is.
that's God. This is why I'm glad we're doing the podcast. All right. So actually, let's skip to that. Topic 2. We're going to do topic 1. All right.
Sure.
I'm going to get the Actually, let's show everybody the board again because I promised everybody I'd do that. And
I want to take a bong hit real quick while you're doing that. Hold on.
All right, go ahead.
I'm not gonna do it on camera this time because if I do, then
I don't even think that's what got me in trouble. What got me in trouble is that I said COVID didn't come from a bat dog, and they weren't having it, you know.
yeah.
And I also defended Joe Rogan 4 years ago. I'm defending him tonight. I just came from a chat where everyone was calling him a grifter. Joe Rogan's paid by this person, paid by that person. I'm like, tell me who he's paid by. All right. He didn't vote for your person. You didn't vote for her, but who's he paid by? Who's he grifting for? Come on, man. The guy has his own. They're just mad because a pothead comedian is more self-honest than the people who are paid to bring us the news. And that's what's really going on.
Well, the only problem I have with Joe Rogan is he doesn't qualify everything he talks about.
But he says so. He says before I say this, guys, I'm a fucking moron. If you're coming to me for political advice,
he qualifies it afterwards. That's the problem. And in today's news cycle, they're just taking clips, and he's
allowed to do that.
I'm not saying he isn't or he isn't. All right. I'm not saying it's bad what he's doing. I'm saying the problem that I have with what Joe Rogan does is he doesn't fact check himself while he's on his podcast.
He shouldn't have to. It's not an interview. You're allowed to think out loud. You just said Trump wrote a check for Harris in 2020. That was a mistake, right? We didn't fact. We're just having a conversation.
No, just as we're having a conversation.
Right.
The problem is he pushes out rhetoric that's not true.
He doesn't push out anything factually. He says, "I believe this." And you can take it or leave it.
But he gets an expert on, a quote-unquote expert, that is the expert that he goes along in the conversations about the topic, and then he leaves it like that. He doesn't say, okay, let's look at the other side.
And that's the problem with people that don't listen to the podcast.
I do listen to the podcast, but he doesn't listen to the...
He's had experts on every side of every argument
But he doesn't have on both sides at the same time.
They don't want to do it. He's offered, like Dr. Peter Hotez, he offered $1 million of his own money to Hotez to give to his own charity to debate fucking RFK. And Hotez said, platform. I want to go to platform. Fuck off. It's the most popular podcast in the world. You're not giving Rogan a platform.
I'm just saying Rogan's on all the time. He could have two different people from both sides of the coin having a debate on his conversation.
The problem is
the time it's just the one expert talking about their viewpoint on a certain subject.
He's had Malone on, but he's also had Sanjay Gupta from CNN. He's also had he's offered for them to come on. He doesn't have the power of subpoena. Chris, he doesn't have the power of subpoena.
I didn't say he did or he doesn't.
What do you want, a court order for them to come on the podcast?
No, that's the problem I have with the Joe Rogan show is that he might offer, and sure, you can offer to people that you know it's not going to happen. But besides that, why doesn't he have both sides of an opinion on?
That's a good question, isn't it? Why don't they come on at the same time? Why would they come on? Why would they come on his show? Why would they come on his show separately?
There are plenty of people that will get on TV or podcasts and get paid because you get paid to do these things. Okay,
he gets paid regardless. He's got 100 million. He's got 100 million. He's got.
Doesn't matter. You get paid to do all. It
matters because if you have fuck you money, then you do what you want.
But there are people out there that are willing on either side to get up there and debate either side because it's a verbal debate, right?
But it's not his wheelhouse.
I know, and that's my only problem with the guy is that he doesn't bring on both sides of the coin. You hear a one-sided argument.
So what you're saying right now is he doesn't have both sides of the argument on the podcast at the same time. That's what you want to land. You're landing with.
Yeah,
okay.
All
right.
Just so that you can hear a different side of the story once in a while, because it's not for
But I'm not sure
everything.
what you want him to do if he's offered for both sides to do it. I'm not sure how this is his fault
But
or
I'm
it's
not.
his responsibility for their
But you're taking like
failure.
three examples. He has years of podcasts where he only has one person with one side story. He doesn't bring two people on to do either side of the story, and that's what my problem is with him. It's just only my personal problem with
Right,
him is that I see one-sided opinions most of the time,
right.
and a lot of it is fact. Sure, I'm sure, but a lot of it is opinionated fact. Okay,
Sure. Which he
and
says,
and
which he
and
discloses.
I understand that, but people are not intelligent enough to know that it's an opinionated fact, and then it gets out there in loops of information, shortcuts of loops of information on him. And this is what other shows also that only give one-sided things. And
You're
then he goes back and says, "Oh, by the way, we looked at that, and that's not right, and we weren't right, and I agree, I was a knucklehead. I should have known better than da 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 da." But you can do that at the same time as that you're going through an interview with somebody. You can literally fact check yourself instead of just or before you
if he's
put
a
out
news
the
show,
episode.
if he's a news outlet, sure,
Yeah,
fact check away. He's not
or
there to bring
before
you the
you put out,
news.
or at least before you put out the episode, be like, within this episode, realize these are topics of conversation that you can go and research on your own, and these are the different opinions on both sides of those
If it's
conversations.
an interview, fine. If it's a
But that's what he does, it's
conversation,
interviews.
do you understand what a conversation is? A conversation
Yeah.
is you giving yourself permission to think out loud,
No,
right?
I get that, but the problem is he doesn't do that. He brings in the experts.
No, he doesn't. He brings in 2,200 episodes.
Yeah.
That's not his career. How many? I've 2,200 episodes. How many scientific experts has he had on out of that? How many of them would you say are comedians? 1,500 of them. How many of them are politicians? Less than 50. In fact, he's had more politicians on this year than the last 1,000 episodes. He doesn't
Okay.
have, this is not his wheelhouse. I'll go on Spotify. I'll show you. I'll go on our screen and show you his last 20 guests.
So if this isn't his wheelhouse, then why would he be so vocal in something that's not his wheelhouse?
Because he's intrigued and he's interested. Chris, you're
Uh-huh.
you're a weed and volleyball guy. I'm a fucking volleyball coach. We're talking about politics right now. All right. Why do we have permission and he doesn't?
Like I said, he doesn't have both sides of the coin.
He does. And again, that comes from people that don't listen to the podcast. I listen to the
I have
podcast.
listened to his podcast. I just don't see multiple people with multiple different opinions on his podcast. I see people that he brings in that has factual opinions and factual positions about things, but he doesn't then go through the facts of the situation. He just lets that person talk about their opinions of whatever example that they're talking about.
And my problem is we don't hold. You're looking at 5 news outlets right now. You're looking at 5 screens, and we don't hold those people with the same accountability as we do
Of
as we
course
do
we
a
do.
podhead comedian.
No, of
These
course we
people,
do.
Chris,
But the question is why-
these people are paid to bring you that, and they're failing you.
Yeah, but he's paid too, and he's failing us. So
He's
why aren't they
he's
all
not
the
paid to
same?
bring us the news. You're miss.
But
No,
he's
he's
still
not.
doing it.
No,
But
no,
he's
no,
still
no, no.
doing it.
He's not
He's
paid
still
to bring you the
doing it.
news.
He's taking that role,
That's
and
not
he's
his
getting
role.
paid for it. He's getting paid, and he's taking that role. He just
He
came out. You said he just came out in favor of Trump,
so
and
what?
he made a political he's
He
doing
voted
the
for
same
Joe
thing
Jurgensen in
that news
2020.
outlets.
Nobody cared. He voted for Joe
I'm
Jurgensen
just saying
in
he's doing the
2020,
same
and
thing
nobody
as
cared.
news outlets. The same thing, just because you call it a podcast or a TV show, it's all the same now because you
It's
can just
not.
get it on your TV.
No, there's a
Get it on your
conversation and there's an
TV.
interview.
And most people don't actually have cable TV anymore. They just
I
do.
wonder why.
Yeah,
No
exactly. Well,
shit.
I'm not
No
saying
shit.
good or
They don't
bad.
have
So
cable TV
their
anymore.
TV is his podcast. He is their news.
It's not.
He
He doesn't.
is their information
And if
outlet.
someone's okay, now we're going to question the intelligence of people who choose to listen to him, right?
Well, I mean, sure. I'm
Right.
saying that that's
A guy's having a conversation, and when you're thinking
it's
out
their-
loud, you will say things that are incorrect. And as long as you let everybody know, do not come to me for medical advice. Do not come to me for political advice. And
Yes, he does do that well. I must
I
admit,
don't know what else he's supposed to
he
do.
just, no,
He
I'm
says,
just saying,
he
when
says,
I have
guys,
a
if you're
problem with
coming,
him is because he doesn't bring in other opinions when he makes a point, and when his guest makes a point, and he either agrees or disagrees with that point, and then it's clipped, and then after the fact, he goes back and says, "Oh, by the way, this is wrong. I made a mistake," and I
right.
get that, and I'm fine. I'm happy he does that. By the way,
I listened to
I
a three, I listened
I
to a
just
3 hour episode where a
yeah,
woman is a bee specialist.
okay,
2.5 hours talking about bees.
peace,
And
sure.
nobody fact check her because they don't care. They only they when he started talking about politics, that's when people started caring about him.
But
We're
that's
on
what
episode two
that's my
thousand.
point, is
We're
that
on
why
episode 2,200 and
if
something.
you're that accomplished and you're making that much money, wouldn't you have some sort of fact checking just on the beekeeper or anybody brought onto your show, so that you're not making the mistake of saying something that is being pushed out into the general
If
public
people
and
are
you
going
think
to him
that could
for
be wrong?
facts, no. If people are going to him for facts, yes.
Yeah, and I think people are. That's the problem, is that they're
At,
not going
when a
to
guy
other news
when the guy
outlets.
specifically said, "Do not come to him for facts."
No, I get that. I get that, but they don't care. But people, you have to understand, people
Isn't
don't
that
care.
on him more than
I'm not
them?
saying it is on him or is not on him. I'm saying he has a show, and if you want to be at the same level and be paid as these other shows, because you are now the information, like, you can't be held to the same esteem and at the same time not the same esteem.
He is the difference between him and the news is the news says come to us for this. He's saying don't come to me for this. You have to see the distinction between an interview and a conversation. There are people who are paid for that. If I happen to have on my podcast someone that's media, I shouldn't be held responsible for everything that comes out of his mouth.
No,
That's
no, I'm not
that's
saying no, I'm not saying to help you. I'm not saying Joe Rogan should be responsible.
okay. I'm
You're
sorry. Yeah, we went too far with
no,
this. I
no,
might even cut this
I'm
part
not
out because
him
this was all an
himself.
interesting conversation till
No, no, this is a great conversation. What I'm saying is that he needs to be responsible to the public for the information that he's putting out to the public. Because people do look to him for information. They do look to him for a news
and the
source.
only thing he only has two choices, right?
And he's
Well, he
successful.
has three choices.
Now, if he was as
He has
small as this,
right.
podcast can be on my show, and then as big as it gets when you have a big podcast, I would assume that you would fact check, and I see you doing so on your about volleyball stats, about coaching stats, about I see you doing it
And on
constantly.
politics,
Like, I don't want to make a mistake.
I still get censored for telling the truth.
Yeah, but you're like, I don't want to make a mistake here, and we're doing the same thing as we're talking about politics, right? I don't want to make a mistake here. I'm not the person that, we need to fact check ourselves as we're speaking, and that's the problem. If he's that big of a hub,
One, two,
which he
three,
is,
four, five,
he's
six.
worth that much money. How many states?
Six. Too early to call.
Six
Six. We're
still,
down to six.
six
Yeah.
still. This is 182,
Well, we were
230.
eight before, but no.
They've stuck at 230. This
I mean,
is
Florida shouldn't even been on that. Florida was a gimme for Trump.
fucking
That was stupid.
crazy.
That was stupid, right?
Yeah, so I really think that he needs to have a little bit more responsibility if he is going to be that big of a news source, quote unquote, information source.
We'll leave it at that. We'll leave it at that because I believe that his three choices were to say, hey, look, this is not my wheelhouse. We're just having a conversation. One,
Which is fine,
two,
which I want him.
two, have a fact checker walk around when
Not
for
not
every little
fact-checking,
fucking
walking
thing he
around.
talks about, right? I'm
I'm just
talking
saying before he puts out his episode.
right. Yeah, because they're not
That's what I'm
live. No, that's fair because they're not live.
They're not live.
Right. Yeah.
So why put out something that you know?
Do you know how many people waited for Trump? Dude, that podcast was recorded Friday.
Yeah.
And we both know there's a type of Trump person.
Of course.
Are you ready? Can we laugh a little bit? There's a type of person that will be on the pier waving a flag, Trump 2024, back and forth for 5 fucking hours. You come back from your coffee or lunch or whatever, he didn't take a lunch break.
I know this dude was out here on the corner. This old dude with one little teeny sign like this. It wasn't Trump. It was some local fucking guy, and he was on an intersection. You couldn't even see the guy. He was out there all day with a literally like a paper size thing. He's just like the whole
I'm gonna
day. I'm
I'm
like,
gonna cry.
people are
I
fucking
got tears,
absolutely
Chris.
crazy.
I got
Fucking
tears.
people are
I
crazy.
got tears.
People are crazy.
Dude, so here's what happened. Someone that day, the Trump waving guy, had a
Mhm.
T-shirt that said Biden Harris, and then someone walked by, and someone said, "Oh, by the way, Biden dropped out," and that guy goes, he's just like the air left his soul. And I ran up and I said, "Hey, can I take a picture of both of you guys?
Yeah,
I just want to
exactly.
take a picture of both of you guys." So I was in the middle with actually
Mhm.
this very shirt that says "Life's tough, get a helmet."
Yeah.
Harris, Biden, Trump here, and then I put on Instagram. No matter who you're voting for, I love the free speech. I love you could not buy that. And
Well, that's
I
what's
will
great
say
about
one
our
positive
country.
thing. No Democrat has felt that strongly about their candidate probably since Obama.
Yeah. I have a question
Were
for
you
you.
in New York when Obama won?
Uh, I was in New
Oh
York. I
wait.
had my show actually, and I was had
Yeah.
my in New York television show at the time,
Yep.
and I realized that during the middle of the show that America didn't want to vote in a white president, a white woman president. They'd
No.
rather do a black man president than a white woman. And now
No,
we have
just
a
her.
black woman.
Just her.
Well, no, now we have a black woman, and
It's black.
is she going to get put into the presidency? We'll have to see. So it's,
I think
it,
you think of
it
all of
just,
the candidates that were female that were running that you would vote for.
yeah, I
There's a
mean,
long list of them. And I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying America might not be ready for a woman president,
I don't know if
but
America
if we're
is,
citing this one as a pretext, woo, we got some
got two.
accountability,
We've
dude.
got two that ran, and they're going against the guy. And this is a question about you said about free speech and whatnot, and rules and regulations and rights and being able to do all that stuff. Okay,
Hmm.
I have a question for you because this is a serious question. If Trump becomes president over the next week with the votes, right? Electoral college votes.
Hmm.
Um, and he decides when he's president that he's going to change the rules and this isn't his last term.
Can he do that by executive order?
He can now, yes, of course.
Under what statute? Under
He
what
just
bill
did
was
it with
passed that the president
the,
can't make his own
the
law. He executes the law.
yeah,
He's not a
I understand
lawmaker.
that, but now the Supreme Court just gave him autonomy to do basically whatever he wants to do.
On what case? What statute?
What do you mean? The Supreme Court just recently just said that the president has the ability, have autonomy to do whatever they want to do. You realize they just passed that, right?
Yes.
Okay. So what
I
happens
mean,
if he
that's a sum.
and
Are
what
we looking
happens
at the
because
summation
I'm
or
just
the
going
entire paragraph page here? How many pages are we talking about here that says he can do what he wants to do?
well, it's not that many. It's actually very aloof. I've read the thing and it's very aloof. It's very open-ended to what you can and cannot do. You'd have to be actually brought into court there after the fact, when you make any sort of decision. So you have the autonomy to
We could
make
have had student loan forgiven. We could have had abortion codified.
we did.
So the
We did
Supreme
have
Court
student loan
and Trump
forgiveness.
are both full of shit.
Well, no, because it just happened. So he then could go and do it if he thought that was possible.
If
But
the Supreme Court ruled
I just
that
have a question.
Biden can
I just have a
codify
question. It's a hypothetical.
abortion. No, we're talking about president-elect. He's not inaugurated till January.
No,
So
I know that. But
if
what
what you're saying is
happens?
even remotely true,
So what
Biden can go
happens is
buck
while
wild.
during his presidency, right? What happens if while during the presidency they bring up some legislation through whatever state that fights with a lawsuit that says this isn't constitutional, da 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 da, that presidents aren't actually, voted in, they're voted in by the state and it's not the da da da, whatever bullshit line, okay? And it's a lawsuit and it gets pushed up and it's all the way up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court, as we know, is compromised. And what happens if they make a ruling in Trump's favor that he can actually extend his presidency beyond the 4 years that are in front of him? It's just a
It's a very
hypothetical question,
it's a
but
very
it's a very
scary
real,
thing.
a very real question
Well,
because
it's a very well. I want you to consider his last
he
4 years
said
of
it a couple
presidency.
times, so that's why I'm asking this
Well,
question.
here take it.
This is the biggest problem I have with his possible presidency.
Well, here,
Okay.
take into consideration that this has happened on a small scale before. We're New Yorkers, right? This has happened with Mayor Bloomberg, right? The mayoral term is 2 terms, right?
Yep,
And
he
Mayor
extended.
Bloomberg passed legislation. He didn't have an executive order. He didn't have the
No,
authority. He didn't have the
he
power
didn't
to,
have anything,
but
and he
somehow
still
rigged the
did it.
system where he was able to run a
Yes,
third time. And we loved
this is what I'm
Bloomberg
talking
so much that we
about.
elected him a third time. Which, by the way, he ran twice as a Republican and once as an independent,
Yeah.
never
But
as a
the
never as a
system was,
Democrat. So,
but he fixed the system for him to go, and then you can then fix the system even further if you're, once you get your hands into something and you're changing the gears of the car, you can change a lot of other things
I
once you're under the hood.
I think it's
So
a
that's
scary thought, but I think if he was going to do that, we already have a 4-year sample
no, no,
size
no. He
of him.
because in theory he tried to do that with the January 6th insurrection, right? In theory,
Um,
but it's
no,
not real.
no, he
People
didn't.
will.
But okay,
In
that's
theory, he did
right.
because he said, "Meet me at the State House. We're going to have a grand old time. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be amazing, and I'll walk with you up to the Capitol." Right?
Yeah,
Guess
good
what he
luck with
said? And then the
that.
Secret Service said in the car to him, "No, you can't do that. We're going the other direction." He was fucking
And he
pissed.
went.
Yeah, he went, I want to go up there. So in theory, he, you know, in theory, he pushed people to make a decision on their own to go up and, try to change a vote, right?
Oh my God!
And you
Fuck
had,
Holly. I'm sorry, Holly just won, but
what's
sorry.
up, huh?
I'm just no Holly from the Republican. He won his reelection.
I thought you meant Holly
I was just
girl.
like, fuck Holly. But go ahead.
Well, I got 182, 230. Again, he's stuck at 230. This is exactly what fucking happened last time.
Last time was 232, but
232, but we're gonna see
yeah.
probably 230 or whatever, but it's gonna get
But
fucking stuck
Nebraska was 2
there.
votes. That's why I wanted to know who won. If he won, no, if he won Nebraska, that
Yeah.
would be exactly what happened 4 years ago,
So this,
232.
and you said I'm a truth sayer here on the
I said you were a
that's
Mystic
why
Mac.
we started the podcast by me saying, you know what, this is gonna be the exact same duplicate of what happened last time, and I think it's between the two different, years because we have the same rhetoric that was originally there. We've got new rhetoric that was born over the last 4 years, and we have a sandwich in between of voting that looks exactly the same as it did last time.
So right
I
now,
believe
Fox
the
News,
same thing is
Fox
gonna
News
happen.
has Fox News has 216 to 230, 232. So
Exactly.
they got
And
the
then
Chris number,
I
232.
just went on to CNN. My wife, I don't have the clicker. They have 230 to 182. So everybody thought, oh, all my Republican friends, Trump is gonna slaughter her. It's gonna
Dem-
be
Democrats,
horrible.
board your windows. No,
Right?
like
Exactly.
Republicans, board your windows. They're gonna riot. They're gonna riot. Remember that in 2020?
And then on the other
Guys, board
side
your
of it,
windows. The BLM people are gonna riot.
and then the other side of it, you have massive rallies for Harris. I mean, massive. You can't deny these rallies. She's
She
got
needs this.
70,000,
She needs
60,000
this.
people,
She has the wind at her back. She has Hollywood, big tech, celebrity
Good.
endorsements,
Whatever the
Jay-Z,
situation is, I'm
LeBron
just saying
James,
going
and
into
she's
this,
still and
you
I think
had
she's still gonna lose.
you have the Democrats. I'm just saying you have the Democrats on one side with the 70,000 rallies,
Mhm.
people rally 60,000 people. They're like, it's gonna be a landslide for Harris. She's gonna take the woman vote and it's gonna go crazy. And then on the Republican side and the fucking, they're all like, oh, he's just gonna slaughter her, and it's not. It's literally coming down
All
to
right.
6 counties and 20,000. Can
Yeah,
you find
because the Republican side is
5,700?
saying the same thing. Where our guy's gonna win by a landslide.
That's what I'm
Don't you
saying,
see
folks.
people with the Trump bumper stickers? Don't you see
Yeah,
the
yeah.
flag wavers? Don't you see someone that has a private jet that says Trump? I'm just
Which,
like,
what's funny is
yo,
that you
dude.
see a lot less of it this time, but you
Depends on where
obviously,
you live.
yeah, true.
I live in
Depends.
Hermosa Beach. This
Yeah.
is
Oh, I
Republican
know.
space.
You're redder than red
These are
down there.
guys who are neat and clean for Eugene that say, good morning, neighbor, living the dream. But in their house, They're armed to the fucking teeth.
I know the contradiction on some things that are down in that area, like everybody's driving an electric car and have their little electric scooter bikes, but they're not for
Stealing your,
doing
but still
anything.
steal your volleyballs, right? Still steal your equipment, right? Still steal your antennas. All the
But
money in
they
the
don't want
world, but can't.
environmental issues to be forefront, but they're like driving electric bikes.
Use a gas stove. I'm gonna get in this private jet. All right,
Oh my
so
God.
topic two. You're gonna love
Yeah.
this one. I'm gonna give you. You're gonna tackle the Republicans on this one, and I guess because I'm Trump's replacement tonight, I'm gonna attack the Democrats on this one. When this election is over, at
Yeah.
some point, the losing party is going to play something we call the blame game.
Hmm.
So, with 60 seconds, I'm going to cue up your clock. Chris Ships, if the Republicans lose, you have 60 seconds. Where is it? Who are they going to blame? Go.
No one, the system. That's it. I can get it in 3 seconds. That's
He'll
it.
he'll leave me the rest of the time.
Yeah, because I mean, Trump isn't going to blame himself. He never does for anything that has ever happened in his life. He blames other people.
But be more specific. They'll say he won.
No. He'll say that it was the system that was rigged. That is the reason why he lost. He's been saying it
You're
for
right.
fucking
Yeah,
12 years now.
you're right. I don't want to. I don't want to do that to you. I waste 34 seconds. That's like
I
five.
mean, that's it. He's not going to
No,
blame
that's
himself. He's not going to blame somebody. He's not going to point the finger and say that somebody in his, it's not. He's going to say the system was rigged and it's rigged and that's the reason why he lost.
all right. Democratic side.
Sure.
We will go to the three W's: women, racism, and Russia. Okay, women. You didn't want a women candidate, right? But at the same time, they have no vector in study that shows the amount of women that voted for her because she's a woman. This is something no one's talking about. They're only talking about the people that won't vote for her because we're a woman, and saying nothing about the amount of women that will vote for her because she's a woman, right?
Sure.
Voting with their vagina. There's always, I'm getting really fed up with this Russia thing. We have hard evidence from all these intelligence officials. Can I see the evidence? Nope. Rock hard. Take our word for it. 54 intelligence officials of this. The same guys that lied us into Iraq. Okay. Racism. I don't think the guy's a racist. I just think he's a bigot. I think he's whatever. If it involves him making money, it involves him making looking good. He doesn't give a fuck if you're black or white. If he looks good and everyone loves him for it, his ego identity trumps all in that respect. And the last election, there were some people that were blaming third party things, but it was some states it was mathematically impossible, and some states it was quantitatively implausible. And sorry, I went over my 60 seconds. I'm gonna land with that.
So that's the response from the Democrats.
That's where not Democrat voters,
Voters.
the
Okay.
party. What the party is going to tell their voters how they're supposed to feel after that.
Okay.
We
Okay.
had a white lash. It wasn't a backlash. This was a white lash. Remember Van Jones in 2016? It was cringy.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to make excuses, to be honest with you.
I just hope
Um,
if it's a blowout.
but it's not. It's not going to be.
No,
We've already,
you're right.
we're
Because
watching it.
even if the point spread, like the electoral point spread, is big, we still know it's tight, right?
It's
Last election,
it's not going to be a
Trump.
blowout.
Oh, listen, last election, Trump got the second most amount of votes in the history of the president election, and would have won if first wasn't the same year. And think about that's all right. Call that 50-49, call that 51, whatever. But that's half the country.
Yeah, but no one talks about it, to be honest with you. They're always like he's always like, I got more votes than any other Republican. And I'm like, yeah, but so didn't the other side. Like,
Yeah.
and then they're like, you couldn't have had that many votes. Who the hell would have voted for him? But you got
He
more
would
votes
suck
than
at
somebody.
fantasy
Okay, get
football.
more
Wouldn't he suck at?
votes.
He would suck at fantasy football.
It's
Chris,
horrible.
Chris,
It's
I got
stupid.
148 points on my fantasy team last night. Did you win, Jay? Nah, this guy had 152. but think about how frustrating it must be for the Republican Party, right? Or let's just say for fantasy football, just for fun, that you outscored everybody. And if you didn't go up against this one guy, this 1 week,
Well, but that's what happens every single week.
no, but that's
in
fantasy football
Yeah,
transcended and translated to
without a doubt.
that
It's just
2020 election.
he hasn't stopped talking about how it was rigged. That's what I just don't that it's like, folks, if we're in a fantasy football situation, you're on a little, thread with your friends on your or on whatever Instagram or WhatsApp or whatever you use for your thread for your fantasy football, and someone's like, I won last time. It was rigged. I should have because I had the most amount of points. Everybody be like, shut the fuck up. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? That's so stupid. Just like shut up. No, that's dumb. Like you're an idiot. And then the memes will come like idiot, like fool, But yet there are people that are like die hard that say, no, 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 no. What he says is the truth.
How
And
many how many people have unfriended you
I
because
don't
of your
care, to be
political
honest with
ideology?
you. I got too many friends in life.
Yeah.
If people want to
So
unfriend me,
that so
that's
that
their
just
own
kind of
problem.
that friends list kind of cleanses itself. Just keep posting. Keep
Let them
yeah.
cleanse themselves. I don't give a shit, to be
Well,
honest with
Snoop
you.
Dogg once said, "Keep posting real shit and watch your friends list cleanse itself."
Yeah, let it clear. I don't give a flying fuck. And
Yeah,
people that can't handle the fucking truth, that's their own fucking problem.
agreed.
It's
Well,
literally
for
their
me,
own problem.
I've had a really good track record with my Republican friends. No, none of my friends on the right have unfriended me
Hmm.
because of our political debates until
I'll be a little
until
bit
two
of
days ago.
I'll be a little bit of
Two
a
days ago,
snob
someone
here.
got religious on me and
Yeah,
said, "What does your Bible say?" And I'm just like, "We're voting for a guy."
I've been restricted
Right.
by a couple people.
Yeah,
I've
but
been restricted
no,
by a couple.
but I'm like, you're asking me what my Bible says, and you're saying you're voting for a guy who basically sexually assaulted people. You're voting for a guy that cheated on his wife. You're voting for a guy that during his presidency dropped so many bombs on Syria, we ran out of bombs, right? And I'm voting for someone I mean, and you think
32
I'm voting for a
criminal
woman
attacks.
that's mass incarcerated the black and Latino population in California at this uncanny rate, and also blocked evidence that would have got someone off of death row. Thank God a judge ruled against him. So you want to ask me what my Bible says about that? I said this is politics. God's got better things to do,
Than to
and
be
I
in
think that
politics.
got me unfriended.
Religion should not be in government or in
Tell
politics.
me,
And
what's the
story.
first reason why? First thing that came to your mind.
Story. And a story. We all have our own
Good.
fucking beliefs,
Hmm.
and half of them are fucking crocs of shit anyway.
Yeah.
Other halves, but it's what people believe, and you can't um demean them for
Right.
having a certain religious view. It's
Thank you.
just some of them are real crocs of shit. I mean, the guy that killed all the people for Heaven's Gate. I mean,
Child of God.
hopefully they're all up in Heaven's Gate right now because they're
Yeah.
all fucking dead.
Yeah.
So, every side of religion, you can't fault people for having their beliefs. Unfortunately, some of them are, crocs of shit. But having those beliefs in a system which governs people, in a political realm, I think is another thing that we have to remove. There are a lot of different religions in the United States right now. There are a lot of different religious values, viewpoints, and most religions all go back to the same thing. It's all Muhammad, and then it splits off from Muhammad after that.
And
So most
nobody chooses the peaceful part of any of this.
exactly. Everybody's like, listen, it was all the same to Muhammad. And it's like, you
Can
know
we
what I mean? It's like,
can we
so
sorry.
I just feel like bringing religion into a political thing is just like bringing money into policy. It's just politics and policy. It just starts to alter people, perception and viewpoint of what might be good for the common good because they have such a feeling and a religious belief in something that it starts to mute their perception.
Right. Let me talk glass half full.
Sure.
I'd like to say this for religion, because I grew up Pentecostal, and it was a way too hardcore, way too judgmental. Looking back
Yeah,
retrospectively,
I was.
but I want to say, yeah, you too, right? Like talking in tongues, doing backflips
No,
up and
I
down the
was an
aisles.
Episcopalian, but I went
Okay.
to, but my father was
Right.
provost and deans of Catholic universities, and my first concert was a religious concert, and I was
Right.
an altar boy, choir boy.
Oh, me too. I lit up the
All the
candles. I
other.
put out the candles with the thing.
I thought I was,
So,
yeah, I thought I was going to be a priest at
so
one
here,
time, so I was extremely religious
here's
for
what I
sure.
want to say. Just about based on my wheelhouse, because I
Yeah,
actually sang choir for 6 years. I did
yeah,
prison ministries in Rikers Island and
Yep.
Brooklyn House of Detention twice a month. 5 in the
Hmm.
morning, I'd go to prison and talk to freaking inmates
Hmm.
about basketball or Jesus. Why being here is not such a good fucking idea. Whatever they want to talk about. So
Sure.
there's something really cool about a religion on a general level that
Sure.
says don't kill nobody, don't steal shit, don't cheat on your wife, don't
Oh, there's
covet, don't. But you
values
know what I'm saying? Don't
within
covet,
religion.
don't
Yeah,
covet, don't lie
there's
on nobody.
value.
Take one day out of the week and chill, do nothing. I'm good at doing nothing. You good at doing nothing,
Yeah.
Chris? I'm good. I'm totally
And-
frigid, bro. So this I want to finish by saying this, and then I'll give
yes.
you the floor. So keeping glass half full. There's something redeeming about those principles that help you shape a society of decency. But
Sure.
here's where the problem I have, and I want you to keep your thought. I don't want you to lose this because what you have to say is probably just as important. You cannot evangelize and antagonize at the same time. You cannot pick and choose scripture that you want to beat folk up with. And I'll leave with
At the
this
same
example.
time.
If homosexuality is an abomination and you're using the book of Leviticus, in that same book, it says you're not allowed to be in the same house with a woman when she's on her period. In that
Exactly.
same book, you're not allowed to actually eat shellfish, crab, lobster, or shrimp. In that same book, you're
Yeah,
not
cherry
allowed to
pick.
mix wool and cotton
Yeah.
and linens or you'll be put
Together.
to
Exactly.
death. So,
Yes.
but the problem I have is I like Christianity. I just hate shitty Christians. And
Well,
I'll close by saying this one more time. You cannot evangelize and antagonize at the same time.
yep, I agreed. And well, it's just not, in Christianity is a good example, but you have examples all in every religions that are all the same. Like if you look at Muslim religions, how they have their ladies cloaked, like a lot of the Islamic Muslim religions are cloaked. You don't have access. They say that, when a man and a woman is in the room, the third person is the devil. That's so they keep men and women out of rooms together, so there
Right.
are different, I mean, I'm just saying this in general, there's
Right.
different
Got to sit at
little
Jewish people,
quirks.
fucking people
And
through a hole
that's
in the sheet. I
society, to
mean,
your point. And I'm not ignorant to the fact that there's a lot of Christianity rules and religious beliefs in the rhetoric that we have for, our Constitution or any other piece of paper that we use as rules and regulations that we have our society live by. But there's also the social norms and the social interactions that we have with people all day long, which goes back, I think, even more to the religious point, which you made the astute thing by saying that, you're cordial to somebody and there are these different things that happen. That's on a daily basis. That's your beliefs, your religion, your belief, you know what I mean? And
I'll go.
and
Amen to that.
and there's a lot of different religions and we all have that same belief. And that's a societal thing. That's not a policy thing.
Right.
And I get that a lot of Christianity policies of societies norms of cordialness and within societies
Yeah.
and
Be
was
decent.
brought into the because but it is the decency of those religions were brought into writing some of the rhetoric and not only in our Constitution but in other paperwork across the board. I'm not ignorant to that fact. I just think that there's a certain point, like especially considering now we've evolved, like the Constitution was written when people were extremely religious and they were hanging people in Salem because of the witch, because people thought something was wrong with because of different
They were
beliefs.
drowning him, right? Where they they had him on a stick and like dipped the
Hey,
stick
there's
in the
some
water
fucked up.
until
Yeah,
they
we could see
drowned.
hangings, stonings,
I ain't got
like
no fact check for that, but they had him on a stick.
we as human beings, we did some fucked up things to other people, and we had chopping of heads with the hangings, with the stonings, the guillotine. We had you could stone people. Just public would get out there and throw fucking stones at someone and fucking kill them.
Oh
So
my
we've
god.
done some fucked up things, and a lot of that is based on religion, and for that to be a good basis
Keep
from
going. I'm gonna
which.
give you the camera. I just gotta plug
I
something in.
think
Go ahead.
it's a good place for a basis for us to start on, but we have to realize that that was, over 100 years ago, and that things have changed, and that we have to start to take this religious beliefs out of our policy and our politics, because you there are just so many different faces and races and religions and ideas, and we all have the same basis behind us in each of those religions to begin with, which is you've said. And I think that, taking that, keeping that in society itself, so that we're cordial to each other is wonderful, but keeping it out of policy is the main important thing, because you're now taking what you've eloquently explained as something that we do in a cordial manner
Right.
and being, and you're now you're eschewing it to your particular belief about one subject, a micro subject, and making it macro at the same time. And I think that's wrong, and I
Right.
and I do think, as we spoke about earlier, generationally, this is going to change. The information is massive. We went from having to run to the Encyclopedia Britannica
To
and
the
finding the
computer. Yeah.
information, or
I'm
asking
so
your parents,
jealous. I'm so jealous. Are you jealous a
right?
little?
Yeah, a little bit. A little bit. But we thought to ourselves as kids, how great would it be, because we watched Star Trek and we watched all these things, if we could have the phone and bloop, bloop, Captain Kirk it up there, and we gave it to ourselves generationally. We watched it, we came up with it, we developed it. That's our generation
It
to
is space the final frontier.
so generationally, these kids have more information than we ever had. And for our founding, fathers and mothers and everybody that came before us, they didn't have the information that we have at our fingertips. So we have to understand that and realize that, yes, originally there was a lot of Christian values that were put into our Constitution, but it was the sign of the times. There was only a few religions available in the United States at the time. And if you weren't part of those certain societal religions, then you didn't go anywhere in your society. You were shunned. Had all the old boys clubs, like the Rotary clubs and all these other things, that you had to be part of these things in your society religiously. My father was in Rotary clubs his whole life, and I would never go into a Rotary club. You know what I mean? Like now as an adult, I'm like, well, cool for them, but not for me. So, but that was a norm. He was like pushing for it when I was younger. Like I should be part of the Rotary Club and, do all these things. But people have changed, and I think, just we have to realize that with religion and politics, as we look to see who's going to be the new president, is that we have to understand that things have changed. People do change, generational things change, and information changes us. And as we get more and more as a global unit of people, information and the correct information, and of course now we have AI information that's going to screw with everybody's heads. I think throwing religion as one other thing into the fucking pot is just too much in the mix.
I think
You
religion's
know,
losing in
to a
this
point,
battle.
and
Yeah.
yeah, in some,
And
they're pushing hard for it in Russia. You know what I mean?
not
There
and
are
I don't
certain,
want that to happen. I really. Mhm.
yeah, no, there are certain areas that are pushing really hard for religion, and others that are not. And I think that the battle with people, the information is one thing, but the other thing is that people have become so um, singular because of information, because of the phone, and being able to just stay at home and fucking punch away at the computer all day long. You don't have to go out and be too social. I think that's one of the larger problems, is that they're not coming together to be in a communal situation. So I lived with a priest when I was younger. I'm going to give a little quick story. I was kicked out of my house. I was a bad child. And I was on probation. They gave me a chance to go to a juvie place, or I could go live with a priest and do the sentence through living with them. So I lived with a priest in South Providence, Rhode Island, which is the not the nicest place in Providence. It's where all the gangs are and all the stuff. It was right in the middle of South Providence, and here I am in the
Good
middle of
lord.
church. The priest was a black priest, and Father Brunson, he was such an amazing, wonderful person. He's passed away, unfortunately. But I was given a chance to do that instead of going you know, into a juvie type of situation. And while I was there with him, because I had so many questions about religion, I had watched my father, as this real religious figure in Christianity, and trying to get Christianity to other countries. He did a lot of things with universities in China and really pushing the word of the gospel and Christianity out there. So I had so many questions because my parents got divorced and I was such a bad problem child. And I turned to the priest and I said, you know, why do people go to church and sit there together? You know, I'm like, I don't get it. Like, I have my own quote unquote religion inside of me, you know, and how I view religion and whatnot. And I said to him, I don't understand why people have to, you know, go to a church and sit in front of a wooden, you know, like someone banged it. Because I used to fix these things. I'm like, I'm fixing the altar. And then, you know, like people are up to, because I did that as help. I helped him around, did odd jobs for him. And I'm like fixing a wooden altar, and I'm realizing that someone sculpted this altar and put it up there, and it, you know, along with all the pictures and the organ and all this stuff was made by somebody's hand, and yet, and they designated this place and this spot within Rhode Island for to put up a building around it and to make it a communal worship spot. And I'm like, this is, you know, people are just have made this place for people to go and worship. And back to the fact that, you know, back in the day it was a different time and this was, you know, how society acted. And so I was like, why do we need to do that now? You know, why do we still need to go to a church and have this, you know, these massive 100,000 people that go and throw up their hands and run around and religious? And when I said, he said, you know what, because some people need it. And I said, oh shit, I never thought of it like that, you know, because I was doing the me thing.
Yeah. I want to hear a cool story. I was watching the show called The Good Wife, right? Juliana Margulies,
Yeah.
and the daughter's like this Catholic, right? She's not religious at all, but her daughter wants to go to church, fine. And she asked her daughter, like, the David and Goliath thing.
Hmm.
She says, "Do you actually believe Goliath was 20 feet tall?"
Hmm.
And she's like, "No." She says, "But the Bible tells it like that so we can remember it and we can be inspired by it,
Sure.
right?"
Sure.
Like if
Sure.
you read the story of David and Goliath, right?
They're all
And you
stories.
find out Goliath was like like Jack, 7 feet tall. You're like, fuck that guy. I'm gonna put down my slingshot. I'm gonna get a baseball bat and take it to his knees, right? But you hear someone's 20 feet tall, and you know that baseball bat's only gonna annoy him. That's your ass. So
Mhm.
uh, I grew up thinking the Bible was a literal sensation, but now
A lot of
I've
people do.
accepted that I think that some stories, in order for people to believe in true moral values, you have to lie a little. Sometimes the best way for the truth to set you free is to lie. I don't think, I
Or to
don't think,
believe a lie
but you know what
or
I'm saying?
believe a lie.
But if you tell the story as Goliath is 7 feet tall and not 20, nobody cares. And it's
Ooh,
inspiring.
I got 246 on CNN. What are you showing right now with
Um,
Trump? 82
Fox,
and
I got 216 Harris and 232 Trump. He's still at 232. Did
I
yours
got
change?
182, 246 on one show. I can't get to another one right.
Fox right now, I'll save you the time. Fox says 216 Harris, 232 Trump. You're like, they're messing with us. You
I
see
just
this?
fucking
This is
wonder.
us.
They want, I really think it's a ratings thing. I really do. I don't, that's why I didn't think it was going to be this close. I thought that it's just, they're just, but I guess the ratings in is it being this close. You know what I
You
mean?
know
Because,
what's you know what's cool? This question I thought would be really bad because it's almost after the fact, but it's still
yeah,
fresh because the race is still close.
yeah.
Tony Hinchcliffe, Madison Square Garden, right? Called
Oh my
Puerto Rico
God.
a floating island.
Fucking,
And this one, you're gonna carry the vanguard on this one. I might do the clock or I might not, but
you do the clock
I
because
want
I
you to
could go
talk
on for hours
uninterrupted.
on this fuck face.
So, what effect did Tony Hinchcliffe have on Trump's campaign at Madison Square Garden?
I don't think much, if
Right.
anything. Um, but
There's something
uh,
else to this, though. Go
like
ahead.
on his campaign, no, but the guy's a fucking asshole. And it was the campaign knew what he was going to do because they paid him to be there. So it wasn't like they didn't know what he was going to do. And that's the problem I have with the rhetoric that's coming out of the Republicans right now is that they're talking about, sending people for whatever reason, because who's going to make up the reason to send people out of the United States? What's going to be the qualifying point? Is it 1 year? Is it 2 years? Is it 10 years? Does you have your family? Does it not have your family? Were you born here? Were you not born here? Is if your parents were born here, but you weren't born here? So how are we going to like regulate him kicking out, a million people, and the cost of it's going to be over $1 billion?
Right. Here's what I think. Um, their whole rationalization or excuse was the guy's a political roaster. And if you've ever seen the roast of Tom Brady, I actually laughed really, really hard. But
Mhm.
this is something that he planned, whether Trump knew it or not. You say he did, I don't know, and maybe you're right. But Rogan actually, because again, I'm an avid listener, warned him against this. He says, dude, I went and told jokes in front of like Wall Street. Some Wall Street guys wanted me to do it, and none of the jokes landed. You don't.
No,
And he says, mind you, those are Wall Street guys that laugh at everybody. And if they didn't laugh, and maybe he sucked that day, but these jokes, some of these roasts don't land. And here's the other thing about a roast that you'll appreciate. There are rules to roasting. Roasting, you have to roast someone that's in the room. That's why it's called a roast. He had a room full of white guys to roast. He didn't do it, right? Roasting also involves not punching down. It always, almost 9 out of 10 times, involves punching up. And this one you're gonna laugh at. If he wanted to talk about a floating island of garbage, we're both New Yorkers. Look, no further than Staten Island.
Staten Island.
Staten Island. Do you know what Staten Island? Which
That's
everybody else think New Yorkers would be offended if he told that joke. In
They would
Madison
love
Square
it.
Garden, if he said that about Staten Island and
They would
not
have
Puerto
loved it.
Rico, that
They
would
would have
have
loved it.
landed. By the way,
What?
that place, yuck.
Yeah. So
Except
so
the Wu Tang Clan, I ain't messing with
I like
Staten Island.
Staten Island. I like playing golf out there. It's nice. There's
Okay,
some nice places.
no,
And nice people out
but
there
I
too.
didn't
Good
like.
pizza out in Staten
But
Island.
when he told the joke, the only thing that made it redeeming was there was a lot of people in the audience that went,
But
"Ooh,"
that's what, and
and
that's the
that
problem I have
helped.
is that i.e., know your audience. So you think your audience is okay with this? Like
They were
that's the
not.
rhetoric that I'm afraid of.
They were not though. They were
They're
they
not. But
they
but
went they
they
went
the people whomever
ee.
approved
Right.
thinks that that's the rhetoric that's okay.
Well, the rumor was he had like a I guess like a genitalia joke to do with the Kamala Harris that he was originally going to do, and they told him please don't do that joke,
Well,
and
it's
then
not the
and then
it's
he
not just
switched
the
that.
floating garbage. You talked about, hey, black people going to have a watermelon party and putting them as fucking helmets on their head afterwards, or whatever the fuck he said.
Well,
He went after different people.
he went. Well, that's different because he didn't go after. I guess you could say he went after a people because Puerto Rico has Puerto Ricans, and I don't
Yes.
think he. The weird thing is, in his mind, he's not talking about race. He's talking about a place, right?
Yeah.
And that's why it didn't land. You don't. And by the way, guys, for the people listening to the podcast, here's some facts for your ass. There are more Puerto Ricans in New York than there are in San Juan. You don't tell that fucking joke. I will say that again, Chris.
It's but
Look,
it's
you got a big
it's not
Mexican
even a
population in California,
joke.
right? There are more Puerto Ricans in New
Yeah.
York,
But
Bushwick,
it's
that whole neighborhood.
Oh, I know. Trust me, I watched the hard court every single day when I was playing on the sand. It was all Puerto
Yes.
Ricans. It's
Oh,
all
so
Puerto Rican
Dominicans,
national
but
team on the
yeah.
fucking hard court every day.
No, those are Washington Heights, so that's Dominicans.
Anyway,
Call a Dominican Puerto Rican. Good luck with that.
yeah, I know. But so that's what my problem is that they weren't jokes. They were slanders. And it's one thing, and someone that was on Bill Maher the other night, a commentator said, he was like, you just did jokes about Puerto Ricans in your monologue in the beginning, and those were jokes. What this guy said was demeaning. It wasn't a joke. It was a rude, demeaning thing to try to put on a society of people who live in a certain area. Like, it's very demeaning. So like, you can joke about things, and I think that's the difference, is that he quote unquote made a joke, but he was demeaning people, and it wasn't really a joke. He was just demeaning them. You
But
can make a joke
yeah,
about, like, My
It
guy.
doesn't land
Hey,
if
my guy.
right.
How many people in Puerto Rican say my guy? I mean, like
We know one, but go ahead.
that we know a lot of them
No,
actually.
but we're thinking about a gaucho in particular.
Exactly. Well, I'm thinking about a couple, but one gaucho and another one in particular. So you can make jokes about things and it's not demeaning to someone. Like it's not demeaning to a culture, it's not demeaning to a bunch of people. It's just making fun of like the way somebody, you know, does something awkwardly. But and without putting that person down, as you said, you're punching up, you're not punching down. And all he was doing was punching down. And that it didn't obviously didn't hurt the Trump campaign. It's just that's what makes you so uneasy when you look at these things and you say, how can you not just, how can you have somebody even close to that on your stage?
Here's the problem I have with him. But I want to say this first. I remember Jamie Foxx is on Rogan's podcast and says
Yeah.
you got to let comedians work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like because they had a conversation about Robert Downey Jr. In Tropic Thunder, doing
Yeah.
like blackface or whatever,
Yes, of
and
course.
everyone was okay with it because he was an artist trying to find out what lands and what doesn't. And in fact, Robert Downey Jr. came on the podcast later, so like I was saying, true to his
Yeah.
word, he actually had Robert Downey Jr. on the podcast as well, explaining
We
this
had it at
out.
the same time.
So the point Jamie Foxx is trying to make is you got to let comedians work and see
Yep.
what lands or doesn't. Now, with that being said, and this is where you and I are landing with both feet on the same whatever. I might step on your feet here.
Yeah.
Most of those guys go to a lab, something we call a lab. They go to a smaller venue, they talk, they
Of
whatever.
course. Or they
It might be in
throw it off their
Stockton, it might be in Hermosa
friends or
Beach, right? It might be in Utah.
yeah.
And if it doesn't land, work on the joke or just scrap it.
Yeah.
This
Or you do
guy,
it in front of your friends or something. And they're
this
like, yo, bro,
guy,
I don't know
this
about that.
guy was warned by Joe Rogan, who, by the way, Rogan is and very, as far as like anybody can get it, he's very much like Chappelle. Though Chappelle, as far as levels of comedy, they're not even close. Chappelle's is the goat, right? Um,
No,
so mind you, you got Joe Rogan who thinks every joke is funny, telling you, don't do
don't do
this.
this. And that's what the problem is. Like it's like I feel like everybody is around the Republican Party knowing, because a lot of my friends that are Republicans, they know that these are demeaning things. They know what they're saying and the rhetoric that's coming out is extremely
Did he think
demeaning.
everyone in the room was gonna laugh together? What was
And
that?
they know it's demeaning, and most of them turn the other way. One of my really good friends who's in Rhode Island, who's a staunch Republican, worked on the Republican parties and stuff, and he knows some of the things are just horrible. And he doesn't like, whenever I ask him, like, dude, what do you think about this? I mean, this is crazy, and he's like, I'm whatever, new subject, new meme, new whatever. Or what about this, type of thing, like trying to too negative to, explain a
Right,
negative with
right.
another negative type of thing. And I'm just like, how can you not? And that's why I thought it was going to be a blowout, because the way the rhetoric against women that's coming out of the Republican Party right now is just extremely turn back the clock retroactive thinking, and I just thought, like, how can,
Really?
like, I have one, two, three, four, I think I have six women that work for me,
Mhm.
at my shops, and they run my shops. They're amazing, amazing. They're quick as shit. They've been better than the male employees, like 10 times better than male employees, 100 times better than male employees. And they're threatening their ability to work and limit the jobs that they can hold. And, it's not present right now. And I might sound like a conspiracy theorist saying these things. But some of the rhetoric that's coming out of the Republican Party is women shouldn't be able to vote. Women shouldn't have their reproductive rights to themselves. Women shouldn't have the same jobs and opportunity as men. Overtime.
Yeah.
Overtime is going to be crushed.
That is that is up and down having fun with left and right, Chris.
I mean, but crushed, but
Did you see
over
the
time, they'll be
commercial? The
crushed.
Democrats said, "Women vote against your husbands.
No,
Women
I'm
don't
not,
tell
I'm
don't
not,
tell your husbands who you're
I'm
voting
not
for.
dooming and
Vote for
glooming the
Harris."
situation. I'm
Are
not
you
saying this is what's going to happen. I'm
okay?
saying that's the rhetoric that's coming out. So you got to step back, especially after hearing, because we're on the Madison Square Garden. That's why I brought this up, is that we hear rhetoric that's just so demeaning and so gross to everybody.
He assumed it
Yet,
would land.
yet and then I'm thinking that Harris would have run away with this because on the Harris side, they're not demeaning women. They might have said
Yes,
that
they are.
Trump voters are
Yes, they are.
stupid.
Yes, they are.
Um,
Yes,
but
they are.
they're
They ran a commercial saying, "Vote the opposite of your husbands." Just it was so fucking demeaning. And don't act like again. This is up and down, having fun with the left and right. The
yes, of
guy,
course.
there's a guy that ran that won a House seat. His name is
Oh, I know.
Quellis. All right,
Yeah.
he's a pro-life candidate that Nancy Pelosi financed to push him over
Yep.
the finish line tonight. The fuck are
I
we
understand
talking
this.
about? We're talking about wolves and foxes, dude.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the rhetoric that has been coming out of the Republican side, including that comedian that we were talking about the other night
It's just
in
terrible.
Madison Square
Yeah.
Garden,
Yep.
including with what JD Vance has been saying about women and their ability to vote and their reproductive rights, and then possibly overtime and working in general and the roles that women are supposed to take. I thought for sure that people wouldn't want in this America in this year, this generation wouldn't want this, but it's
Can't
generational.
even believe
And
it survived.
because
Didn't even. I mean, that was like a beta. That's like having a VCR or a beta right now. It's like they still make you.
that's what I'm
they still
saying. This
make
is
you.
what I'm like, what the fuck?
I,
But they do because the older generation, which vote a lot, obviously, there's still those fucking I'll be racist ass white fucking older people that haven't changed at all. And it's crazy to me. And because you see that they believe that it's okay for a comedian to go out in Madison Square Garden and say racist fucking slurl fucking quote unquote jokes, which are just slanders. And I just don't find it, and that's generational. And I have to keep on reminding myself that these things are generational. They were okay with that. This is how they grew up, quote unquote, locker room talk, right? That was locker
which is
room
fine with
talk.
me as long as it stays in the locker room.
Locker room talk, as long as it's in the locker room, it's all okay, but it's
It's
not okay.
it,
It's
it
demeaning.
it's
It's fucking
okay if it's a
gross.
joke where we can all laugh together. This was not
If you're
funny.
laughing with the person that you're talking about like if I went to a Maudi and was like my guy, right? He's
Yeah.
like my guy. I'm like, no, my guy. Like you're laughing with that's a good joke, but when you're demeaning people,
Right.
you're demeaning them. It's not a
Agreed.
joke.
You can tell Amari's our Puerto Rican friend. Amari, for those of you listening, he's a former like All American candidate for
One of the
UC
best
Santa
volleyball
Barbara,
players
middle
I've ever
blocker,
seen.
right? Final Four guy, NCAA. He was a gaucho, and
Yeah.
even now, I mean, I hope they have a statue of him somewhere in Santa Barbara. But
Jesus,
he's one of those guys where we can tell Puerto Rican jokes and we can all laugh together. And that's my definition. Not Trump doesn't get to hijack definitions because he says so. My definition is we're at a bar, we're gonna tell jokes where we can laugh together. But if there's a like if we
They're
tell
not
if we
demeaning.
tell a woman joke like Dave Chappelle was like, I'm gonna stand up for women. Right? He says, I'm going to be the spokesperson and I'm going to make sure you guys get what you want. He says, and all you got to do suck my dick, So, but that's what I mean by art. If you can say it in
Yes.
a way where it's so outlandish and they know you don't mean anything about it, you can laugh together. That's one thing. This was just,
This is
I just don't get the
disgusting.
why.
I
And
don't get how got passed through that they think that this is okay to put this in front of one of the largest platforms in the world.
yeah,
So that's the only this is the problem I have. It's like
it's a
I
funny year
feel
like
like you
that.
have a bunch of third graders running this shit because they're okay with that.
You have
They're
third
okay with like,
graders.
oh, it's just locker room talk. So oh, hoo, 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 funny, funny, funny. Like it's not. This is
Like Al
demeaning.
Sharpton says, ha 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 ha. Very funny.
Very fucking funny, you fucking
That's how Al
you
Sharpton goes,
know what I
ha ha
mean?
ha ha.
Very funny, you fucking asshole. And it's like This is crazy how close it's getting in these fucking
I'm at
246
248 right now. Well,
or
according
240.
to
I got
Fox News.
140, 246,
So,
187. Yep.
everybody listening, guys, I am not a Republican, and this is as much defending Donald Trump I have ever done
Never
it
done.
probably in my life, and this is the last night I'm doing it. I'm just
But you did,
Chris and I are just
but
trying to make fair points, and
fair points.
just because I'm
And you
playing the
did think
devil's
he was going
advocate,
to
I don't want to
win.
be the devil, huh?
And you did think he was going to win tonight.
I did. I thought he was going
Yes.
to win by a
So
lot.
you're fairly defending your position that you thought he was going to win. Whether or
Um,
not you wanted him to
maybe.
win is a
Yeah.
totally different
If
story.
he doesn't win, I just don't like arrogant people. Look, 2020, when I woke up, when you told me what was going to happen, and I woke up the next morning, and I go to Starbucks every morning. Everyone knows my routine because nobody knows where not to find me. I'm there. And when I looked at the computer and I saw it, I went, ah! And scared the living shit out of everybody else, because all I had to listen to all night were my Republican friends saying, "Oh my God, BLM riots all over again, dude! Board your windows, board your windows." And I'm like, I just want to, and I sat quiet. I just want to say you're so fucking stupid, because riots against racism had nothing to do with Biden.
Nothing.
You didn't,
Exactly.
So, and the riots were committed by people who don't even vote. They're not going to vote for Trump or
Anybody
did
maybe,
you
actually.
see anyone with a blue no matter who flag out there breaking your window? And
No,
I'm like, why do you think black people are going to riot if Biden loses? The guy that says, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. That you think black people are going to vote, are going to lose their mind if this guy loses. So when I woke up the next day, all of those guys, I went on social media. It's rigged. Oh my God, it's rigged. Whatever the voting, the electronic thing. What's it called again? The
Yeah,
electronic thing. What's it
the
called?
machines,
It'll come to us. But anyway,
yeah,
then
Dominion,
I'm like, you know what?
Dominion voting machines.
Actually, I just want to go turn on Fox right now. The day after they find out they're losing their election, just for comedic purposes, because that's why I go to Fox. I want to see them lose their mind. I hope Donald Trump's kid is on
They were
there.
like, "Duh." They didn't know what to
Tears.
say.
It was anger. It was tears. It was banging his fist. There was flailing. And Chris, I don't mean to sound like a Schadenfreude or like somebody who's a sadist. I couldn't stop laughing.
Yeah.
I couldn't. I'm in Starbucks, and now everyone thinks I'm mentally retarded, or like something's wrong with me. And I mean that from a scientifically diagnosed person. I'm not teasing like retarded people, but people thought that I was mentally disturbed.
Well,
So
I
we
mean,
got,
and
248,
that's what I don't
216.
understand, because like everybody can have their point. Like everybody, they're like, you're like this, because I'm like, I've never said that ever in my life. I'm
No,
not. I've always said the same thing about Trump. He could be the best president the United States has ever had if he just do stuff for us rather than for himself.
amen.
And he's only does things for himself.
Yeah.
So, and he doesn't stop that. And so I can understand the allure of a strong guy, and the generational thing where it's like the locker room talk and all this stuff that
Which
are
which
stuck in people's
which we
heads.
don't care. I
Yeah,
mean,
which
how
is
does that
stuck
stop a
in people's,
genocide?
yeah,
Right? How does that stop? Go ahead. Mhm.
it's all stuck in people's heads, and I can understand how they, would want to vote for him, and it's generational and whatnot, and people are stuck in that. But, you know, we're you have to open up to the other side too if they win.
Yeah.
Like you can't just say that it was rigged because you didn't win. And then to sit on that for 4 years, and that's all we've heard about for 4 years, is ridiculous.
Shit.
And
The Republicans just flipped two senators, but sorry, go ahead. They have
two
51.
Senate seats, they just
Yeah.
flipped.
Yeah.
They picked up more.
Yep.
How's the House looking? Is there any flip? Can you pull up that map that you have on the other one too?
Sure. Yeah. I got it.
Because I'm not getting a good.
I know. Mine, I don't know. Maybe I'm overusing my bandwidth here, but for some reason,
Not
the
coming up.
Associated Press is it's slow to load.
Mm,
But I just click refresh, and we'll give it a one more shot as we're going.
okay.
But
Take your
right
time.
now, I got
What do you got up on?
on Fox News. I got Harris,
Yeah.
216, and Trump. Um,
216 at Harris and
and
Trump at
Trump
what?
248. He finally broke his 232.
I've
But
got
barely.
246 and 187 on the CNN that's up on my screen
God,
right
I wish
now.
I
I'd
could.
like to go over to the other ones. I don't have the clicker though.
I
Let me
wish
see
it.
if I
Let
can
me
get it. Give me two
actually let me
seconds.
just see if I could go straight camera. See if I could zoom in on that.
I'd like to
Let's see if I could just zoom in on my TV. I'm on
there you go.
camera one right now. Self
It's
silent.
it's just crazy how we both thought it was going to be a landslide in either. Let me see what NBC seeing. We'll do PBS.
It might
We'll
be straight sets, but all the sets might be 2 points. You know.
yeah.
So that's Harris 216, and behind the poll is Trump 248. Sorry, I'll move that a little bit. This
Harris
is
got
Wisco.
Oregon saying projected winner of Oregon is
Look at
Harris.
Wisco. You see Wisco?
Okay. Yeah, I see it.
Yeah, that's bad news. I mean, she can still win, but
Again, it's going to be an overnight count. They said that most places by 12 o'clock, so we're getting there.
right. My battery just died.
It's so close.
My
Look at
live
that
stream battery just
Nevada.
died, but we're still recording.
40,000 and 40,000 in difference in Nevada. I mean that literally we're going to get down to votes again. It's going to be an overnight. I said that in the beginning of the story. We thought we both thought it was going to be one
But
side or the other, and it's
Pennsylvania,
not.
though, 90% reporting for Pennsylvania, and Biden's up. I mean, Trump is up 250,000 votes, 90% in.
Yeah.
They
Too
better
close to
pray.
call in Michigan.
Yeah, Michigan is
Two
weird.
233,000
Yeah,
vote difference. Too close to call, they're saying.
Michigan, you have Dearborn, Michigan, that is not going to vote for Harris, and that's a big district.
This is
Dearborn
insane.
is very
How
Muslim
close it
dominated,
is.
and considering what's going on in the political climate around on the other side of the world, all of those people voted for Biden, and they're not voting for Harris.
Yeah, it's crazy how close it is.
Yeah,
Because
Arizona is airtight. Arizona, oh my god,
that's
ugh.
what I'm
Let's
saying.
go.
This is not over. I mean, he Trump is obviously ahead at this point, but these votes are so close that it's, you know,
This ridiculous. Here it is.
and different friggin' sites are giving us different information. This is crazy.
I'm just pissed because I just saw that Harris won Nebraska, right? And I saw the two electoral votes, right?
Yeah.
And then they said they called it for Trump. The other, and I'm like, what are you doing? That's why
What?
I'm trying to get the AP, because the Associated Press is
I got
has a
this
reputation for being
CBS.
reliable, you know, and they really try to get stories right. Oh, national popular vote, Trump is ahead in the popular vote. 66,000 to 61,000.
I
Go
mean,
back to the camera. That's insane. I never felt
that's
this,
insane difference.
dude.
We've got
That
I've
would
got
really be
210 to two something in on PBS right now.
okay.
They just flashed it in the corner. They'll go back in a second.
210. Here's Michigan.
This is crazy.
Let's
Harris
go back.
210,
Check
Trump
out check out Michigan. Look at
247.
the screen.
210, 247.
This is Michigan right there. Check that out. You can see through the poll.
Yeah. It's so
This
tight.
is
This is
wild. Look at Arizona though. Look at the votes. Oh, they just took it off the screen. That was wild. It was like 10,000 votes or something like that.
Yeah, it's
I,
literally like 10,000 votes. This is going to get real close, real tight at the end. It
yeah.
looks like Trump is going to win at this point, but
Yeah. But I
if
think
it's
like
this
you
close,
said, it's tight. It's like the volleyball game, right? Even the person that won in straight sets, you win each set by two. It's tight. Think about how
it's
that could go
tight.
another way if Chris, think about if I'm playing you and the first game I don't win by two, you win 2-0, right? So think about
Yeah,
how it could have went
exactly.
another way.
It's just crazy because both sides thought that this was going to be a blowout. This is pissing off. So that's not straight enough for me.
Oh my God. I think we've took it as far as we can go.
Yes, I
Um
agree. Because there's not much more we can say about
no,
this. We
this
both got our
is
jaws on the ground and we're dragging them next to
I
ourselves.
just Chris, I'm just so glad we got to talk about everything. I'm so glad I get to see your face.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is an old friend. This is a guy who really helped me get into this beach thing.
A
Like
little bit.
I was a pure indoor player when I met you, but I really appreciated that you're like, I should go to tournaments and this and that. And then when you came to California, um, it was just great. It was great watching you and Bobby Jones playing on Manhattan Beach when I moved here.
Thanks, brother.
I played in 2016. I wanted to play one before I got too old.
Mhm.
And here we are, Chris. We're doing what we want to do.
4 years later, Jason, going
Yes.
over the politics and
See you in four
talking about
years.
how close it is and being open-minded about
Yeah.
everything,
Hmm.
both sides, both things. People think we're closed-minded. We're really not.
No.
We're open-minded about everything. And I'm glad that we had you have this platform to show people this, and
Yep.
you've gotten a lot better on the platform. Congratulations
I
for
just got to
that.
shut the fuck up and let
And well,
my
your
guests
minute
talk.
timer is
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, I gotta let my guests talk, man, and that's why I brought the 1 minute clock because I thought I didn't want it
Yeah, because I babble
out of
too. Everybody
excitement.
babbles, especially when you get
Yeah,
high. You start babbling.
yeah, and not just that. You're excited and you're invested in the subject matter, right?
Of
So
course.
Chris, plug in your derivatives. Anyone looking for
Yeah,
a good
Cali
time?
Bear CBD. It's only being sold up here right now, in Oregon because of the new changes in the rules and regulations. We held back on distribution. Unfortunately, you can really only find it up here.
A
Bobby
lot of
Jones.
Oregonians though here.
Yeah, Oregonians have it to a couple different yoga studios, chiropractors, massage studios up here. You can get Cali Bear stuff, but the only other way is through me. And Bobby Jones down in Texas will have some stuff, some creams
What?
available soon. So
By the way, how about him doing good Bobby Jones
awesome.
things,
It's
right?
awesome.
Think about
Just
where we
keep
were in
on pushing.
2002 and where we are
Yeah.
now.
I say to everybody, it's no matter, what anybody has an opinion, because everybody does about anything that everybody does. Just like it's so incredible how much we just keep on pushing. All of us. It's from where we were in New York and Central Park and doing whatever we were doing in New York to where we are now and how far we just keep on pushing in the things that we're doing. It's immense. It's great. It's great to see. I'm really happy when people,
Nice.
put in the time and the effort.
And that's how I want to roll the credits to all of our people at home, to everyone still up watching this, for Chris Ships, to my man let's just name some names: Bobby Jones, Justin Stack, Amari Velasco, Morgan Chapman, Seydou Ajanako out of Ghana, West Africa, Shamzu out of Ghana, West Africa, to my Central Park crew, to Rick John Stossel, who the man with the plan who put
Hey,
the double courts there, Ryan Kofi, my Florida crew, our crew from Texas for Chris
God
Ships.
black.
I'm Jason DeBillius. Stay with me. I'm gonna hit my music, and we are out of here. Come check out the Option Podcast on OptionDB.com. It's also available on iTunes and Spotify, and on YouTube under the NYVarsity Sports handle. You're going to love what you hear.